Good morning, everyone. Thank you. I'm already loving the crowd today. So welcome, phenomenal women and allies, and welcome to Women Inspire 2025. Today, thank you. Today is all about action, taking bold steps, breaking barriers, and accelerating business impacts. So, like I said before, I hope you guys have your coffee. I hope you guys have your snacks. We're in for a ride today. So let's kick it off. My name is Aoife, and I'm going to be your host with the mostest, as I like to say, guiding you through. And I'm honored to be standing in a room filled with amazing women making waves in the business, finance, and tech world. Today, we are taking real strategies like how to fund our ventures, embracing tech, and building lasting success. So buckle up, it's going to be a great ride. To open up this incredible event, we have none other than a woman who has dedicated her career to empowering women, entrepreneurs, and creating access to opportunities. She is a mentor, an investor, and a leader. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Olutoyin Oyelade, founding partner at InCap and president of Casa Foundation. Guys, you can do better than that. Let's come on. That's better. Thank you.
Thank you again. Thank you for your kind introduction, Ife. Good morning again, everyone. I was just trying to do it exactly the way she did it just now. Right. Thank you again for being here. It's such a joy. It's such a pleasure to have you all here with us this morning as the sixth edition of the Women Inspire. Right. This morning, as you can imagine, I think we should start by saying Happy International Women's Day. Right, it was only here. Happy International Women's Day. That happened on Saturday, right? And so that's why we're all here this morning celebrating. And it's such a joy to actually have you here. I'm really, truly grateful and honored to welcome you all. This is another giant stride for us at Casa Foundation. Guided by the hand of providence. Here we are again this morning, after, several years of pushing the needle in the market, making sure that we make the impact as women in business, as women in leadership, with all the challenges in the market that we're faced with from time to time. And I know it's really usually a tough call for women to not only lead their businesses, to run their own businesses, to start their own businesses, to get access to capital, to mentor people, to begin to plan for succession, and all of this, to partner with other people, build the clientele, ensure they sell in the market, profit from the businesses that they've created. These are major challenges that women are they're navigating on a daily basis. They are challenged with this. They're looking to pay salaries and so on. And yet, for some women, they juggle that with managing their own families. So again, this morning, I just wanted to say, let's give ourselves a pat on the back and say, well done to all the women in the room this morning. Thank you. Thank you. Right. On behalf of the board of and the governing council of Casa Foundation, I really do extend warm greetings to each one of you. Women's History Month is a time to celebrate our victories, to showcase the innovative work of women who inspire, and to learn from the remarkable journeys in line with the International Women's Day and the ethos of that. Our theme for this particular year is Women in Action, Accelerating Business Impact, challenging us to fast track the initiatives and all the inventions, the creativity that we see around us, making sure that we make that happen, not just for ourselves, but for other people around us, making sure that the change that we expect in the community, in our society, begins with us and doesn't stop with us. We move on and make sure that other people are able to achieve their own dreams and execute on their own ideas. One of the core objectives of Women Inspire is to advance and empower women and to foster change in the women ecosystem. The transformation must come through accelerating growth and in making impact in the workplace and in the marketplace by providing support, resources, and to ensure that gender, job, and pay equality really becomes a reality. And that we're not just, talking about it on a day-to-day basis. I'm doing a lot of research, and you know what I mean. And then, of course, we must amplify the voices of emerging leaders by catching them young. And that's why I'm really glad to have a lot of people in the room. I believe we're expecting a lot of students with us today. And the reason is because we must catch them young. You know what I mean? I hope you get that. Catching them young, meaning from that early stage where we begin to mentor them, we introduce ourselves to them, we build confidence in them. And then they being able to execute on their own dreams and ideas, because everyone has got a story and everyone has dreams that they're looking to execute. And so when we become role models to those young people, they see what we do, then they realize that it's actually doable also. Because if Sonia can do it, if Olu can do it, if Wendy can do it, then other people will be able to execute on their dreams. And that's the whole idea of Women Inspire. We launched Women Inspire. Women Inspire launched in 2020, exactly on the 5th of March. Minister Mary Ng was here with us then. She was the Minister of Women, Small Businesses, Export Promotion and International Development. And she came in this same venue, or at least owned by the TRBOT, launched it because she was also part of the journey saying that women must ensure that they bring along or bring up other women, particularly the younger generation. And so, esteemed ladies, and of course, I see a few gentlemen in the room, maybe one or two esteemed ladies and some of the gentlemen that support us. Today, we're honored to be joined by distinguished panelists representing the academia, the business, private sector, enterprise, and from government sector. Various, vertical industry sectors, as I must say. And I'm also pleased to welcome our table of CEOs that have been mentored and so on. And so I know that for some of our CEOs in the room today, you will have the opportunity to meet them during lunch. I see Roke, I see a lot of people there. And so it's good to have you all. Today, I wanted to particularly acknowledge our sponsors, TMU, that's Diversity Institute at the Ted Rogers Business School. That's at Toronto Metropolitan University. Wendy's been such a great support to us, managing the Women Entrepreneurship Knowledge Hub over the years. And so it's great to have you all here today. TD Bank, a major sponsor of Women Inspire, and of several other initiatives in the women community. Lantana is there leading her team also from TD Bank. Thank you again for sponsoring us, not just 1 year, 2 years, but over the years. Thank you again for believing in this dream. We say thank you to all our sponsors for believing in this, and we want to thank all our panelists. Today with us, I'm not going to be able to mention all the panelists, but I really do want to acknowledge with us in our midst today, the Honorable Andrea Hazell, the Member of Parliament for Scarborough, Member of Parliament-elect for Scarborough. Thank you so much, Andrea, for joining us. We really appreciate you. Thank you for coming. And today also, we have with us, joining us for the very first time, our Women Inspire, and certainly not the last time, Professor Julia Christensen Hughes, the Vice-Chancellor of Yorkville University, Canada. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you. We really appreciate you. And of course, we have Sonia Shure, the CEO, that's the Chief Executive of Invest Ottawa. Thank you so much for joining us all the way from Ottawa. Thank you, Sonia. And we have Kayla Isabel, the CEO of Startup Canada. So if you're looking for money, startups in the room today, that's a person to go to. Make sure you don't allow her to go. And Julie Ellis also, who was the former chairperson, of Angel One Network, Ontario. That's a group of investors also. And now she's into entrepreneurship, coaching, and so on. Thank you so much for joining us, Julie Ellis. Thank you. Thank you so much. Julia Nguyen is here with us, professor from Centennial College. Thank you again for joining us. We have so many other people in the room, and as you can imagine, I really won't be able to mention you all. We're still expecting several other people, but as time goes by, we'll get to that. I need to assure you today that increasingly interconnected in an interconnected world, accelerating impact actually means to us personally at Casa Foundation. The fact that you must empower and advance other women. So yes, we're doing a lot of things, but we're intentionally and deliberately bringing people around the table to amplify their voices, because a lot of people have a lot to do. And there's a lot that they can do to impact what you're already doing. But if people don't know about them, they don't get to hear about them, how can we really say we're changing the world and accelerating impact? So if you look at the theme for this year, for International Women's Day, accelerating impact means to us that a lot is already being done. However, there is a need to fast track the entire process of growth, of advancement, of development of women entrepreneurs, whether they're from the workplace, they're working in careers and so on. We must accelerate them. And a faster way to do that for us also, as defined by Casa Foundation, is to take advantage of the tools, AI tools, digital technology in our midst. Before the pandemic, a lot of people would say to us they couldn't even sell in Asia. They didn't have an opportunity, the window of opportunity to Africa. But the doors opened because of social media, because people were able to sell by way of e-commerce platforms and so on. So people who had no clue about how to gain their partners, how to navigate the journey into breaking into Africa or expanding their businesses to China, to India, and so on, suddenly the pandemic helped us all to put on our thinking caps, and then we began to think outside the box or on the edge of the box or whatever, whatever your MBA professor told you. They started thinking. And, at the end of the day, they got connected to as many partners as possible. So today, this is a call to action. Whoever is sitting next to you, ask for their names, ask them what they do. There will be many opportunities for networking, but find someone or two, one or two people that you can hold on to and find out exactly what they're doing, because your connection or the next connection for the next profitable venture that you're going to launch or career growth in the workplace might actually be with such a person or such individuals. Let there be no doubt, as we embark on our life's journey, that time is of essence. So there's no more time to waste. The actions we take today will shape our world tomorrow. Strategic alliances are key to our growth, our advancement, and the empowerment we've been talking about. So ask yourself today, as you sit on those tables, who are your allies? Who has your back? Let's build the support and celebrate those relationships. We need them. I'm going to leave you today with the wise words of two of my favorite people in history, Maya Angelou, who says, if you don't like something, change it. If you can't change it, change your attitude. If you can't change your attitude, change the people around you by your own behavior. Barack Obama also says to us, he reminds us that we are the change that we have actually been waiting for. Because what we do today, people see that, and it makes an impact on the people around us. So they know that if I see Kayla, for instance, I mention her again, I know then that money has come to sit at my table. So how am I going to sit there and make sure she gets the money for me that I need through pitches and so on? Or if I see, for instance, Professor Julia, and I know for sure that she's been mentoring young students all this while, then I'm going to have to sit with her and say, how do I ensure that the people who graduate from my university or the next set of people that I'm looking to hire have the qualities that I'm looking for in my organization, and so on? These are the ways that we need to begin to think around these tables, so that we're not just attending one conference after the other, but that we're taking something meaningful out of it. So today, I wrap up by saying that your unwavering commitment to Casa Foundation, this is our 15th year. In this last 15 years, it's been amazing. And we really want to thank you. We really want to thank you for standing with us. Thank you again for joining us in our efforts to empower women, particularly women in career and women in entrepreneurship. This is our goal. This is our aim. and we just want to make a strong point that this is what we plan to continue to do. Believing God that we would have the life, to continue to do this effectively. Thank you again, everyone, for listening. It's a joy to welcome you all. Thank you. All right. Before I leave the stage, yes, I've been instructed I need to bring our MP up. And so today it gives me so much joy. It gives me so much joy again, ladies in the room, to bring up on the stage the Member of Parliament for Scarborough, Member of Provincial Parliament for Scarborough, the Honorable Andrea Hazell, herself here with us today. Thank you again for coming.
I don't know how many of you know me in this room, but how are we feeling today? So amazing to see so many women in this room, and it's not one culture. So let's give it up for connectivity, collaboration, inclusivity. Very important. And let me tell you, this is the best International Women's Day celebration for me, because let me tell you, bet on women who continue to kick ass and be a change maker. This is my second term in politics. So I am creating history for our culture. So once again, I'm Andrea Hazell, MPP for Scarborough-Guildwood, re-elected February 27, not too long ago. I am honored and pleased to be here with you all today. I wouldn't have it any other way. I'm tired. I just worked 7 weeks, 7 days every week, 24/7. I survived on 2 hours of sleep. I slept on my couch. I couldn't make it up to the 3rd floor, but I slept with my 3 cats and I was good. But that's the resilience of all of us in this room. That's the strength. And you know what this is? We are trailblazers, and we have grit in our soul, in our stomach. And so what get me up off of that couch with 2 hours sleep for those 6 weeks is grit. It is such a powerful word. Get to know what it is. It's when everything is moving from that body that you think, I don't have it. You go inside of your stomach and you find that, and you feel the bone and you feel the energy and you keep going. So for every one of you in this room today, that's one word I want to leave you with, is grit. Get to know what that is. So today we gather not only to celebrate International Women's Day, but also to recognize the incredible women who are transforming in landscape of business and leadership in Canada. We are no different from every woman across Canada that has their business, that wants to thrive. But I'll tell you what I've been hearing in the political realm of things that I want to change and kick it to the curb is that, why do we have so many women's organizations on the grounds? Why do we have so many foundations on the grounds? Why don't we merge? Right? So we can give dollars to a bigger organization and then they control all these small organizations. Let me tell you this. Let's cut the crap. Okay? We should be having thousands of women organizations because we deserve that. We should be funding thousands of women organizations because guess what? We were never even with the male counterpart. We have a lot of gaps to close. We have a lot of challenges that we have to face and continue to face. So I'm saying, if you want to create your own movement, if you want to create your own organizations, Seek out who's the best in that scope of experience and learn from them. But you know what? Every one of you in this room can form your organization, can support each other. And guess what? We talk about accelerating. That's how we accelerate. That is how we're going to accelerate. There is room at the table, at the decision table for every one of us here. I don't wait for anyone to give me permission to go to that table. I pull up with my table, my chair, my plate, my spoon, my fork, my knife, because that's what you're going to have to do. So I want to continue by saying today we shine a spotlight on your resilience, your creativity, and your unwavering commitment to progress. Denzel Washington says, ease is a threat to progress. Ease. Nothing comes that is amazing and brilliant. It does not come easy. You gotta work for it. And women in this room, unfortunately, we gotta come out powerful. I don't want to use the word strong because I cry a lot. Trailblazers cry a lot. But we pick ourselves up and we keep going because guess what? When you form an amazing network of women around you, the sky is the limit. And I'm going to end very quickly because, I love to be here. I love to see all of you smiling and I want to hug all of you. And I love you. And I know we're here for a reason. And I thank my Dr. Toyin. Come on, let's give it up for her. We do not have enough of you. We want more like you because there's a lot of us waiting just for that hands to pull us up. It's not a handout. We're not taking handouts anymore. We want a handout. I want you to mention my name when I'm not at that table. That's what we need to look for. That's what we need to look for. We need to look for sponsors. I understand we have mentee, we have mentorships, but guess what? Elevate it. You want sponsors to put your name forward when there's a position for you. Trust, confidence. Let us not look at each other one in this room as a threat. When we work together, we break the goddamn cement ceiling that they've put in place for us. We are going to break that cement ceiling. We are going to get those salary dollars that we deserve. You are going to be leaders in technology, not just an employee in tech. You gotta lead tech. You gotta lead STEM. You gotta lead in the political world. Don't let anyone limit your dreams. Thank you. Guys, let's get that was amazing. Thank you so much, Andrea. Talk about energy. I'm hyped up. Oh, I feel like I can take over the world. That was a great starter. I love that. Thank you so much. And just like she said, we are going to be breaking those cement glass ceilings that they are trying to put in place. So thank you again, Andrea. So let's talk about my favorite thing, money. Because let's be real, access to capital is the game changer for any business. So I am happy to introduce this panel that will help break down alternative financing options, investments, and strategies to help women founders secure the funds they need to grow. And leading this powerhouse discussion is Sonia Shorey, CEO of Invest Ottawa, a leader in economic development and investment strategy. We also have our lovely panelists, Kayla Isabel, CEO of Startup Canada, Julie Ellis, entrepreneur coach and former chair of Angel One Investment Network, and Cheryl Bedard, a financial planner with Bedard Associates and co-founder of Critical Solutions, Inc. So please give a warm round of applause for our wonderful panelists. So just a heads up, you can just pick up the mic and start talking. Yeah, of course.
What an incredible start to this event. I am going to bring both of these leaders back to Ottawa because we want to bottle what you have and share it with all of our community, all of Canada and the world. It is such a privilege to be with you today on behalf of Invest Ottawa and SheBoot, accelerating impact for women. It's not just for women. When we do that, we accelerate impact for our economy, for Canada, and prosperity for all. Canada is truly at a turning point. Global trade shifts, geopolitical tensions, rising protectionism are testing our resilience, but we have it. And in the face of these challenges, we also have an unprecedented opportunity to build a stronger, more competitive, and more inclusive economy, one that ensures every Canadian, every founder, every woman, and every business can fully participate, contribute, and benefit from our prosperity. The numbers speak for themselves. 150 billion in GDP growth from advancing women's economic participation can be had, according to McKinsey. Another 100 billion in GDP impact from unleashing immigrant entrepreneurship from the Conference Board of Canada, and another 270 billion in gains from upskilling workforce innovation, according to McKinsey and Future Skills Center. This isn't just an economic opportunity, it's an economic imperative. From tech to tourism, Main Street to manufacturing, healthcare to trade, we simply cannot afford to leave any talent on the sidelines. If we are to become the globally competitive, resilient economic superpower that Canada can be, we must fuel the growth of homegrown companies, including those led in this room, women-founded companies, helping them scale, compete, and anchor the growth and success of Canada's economy. Investing in upskilling and workforce innovation, ensuring that everyone at every intersection of identity has the opportunity to benefit from technology such as AI, and that they're equipped to thrive and grow. Strengthening our financial and investment ecosystems, giving firms, including those led by women in this room, the capital they need to stay and grow in Canada. Today, I am so sad to share that sole women founders receive a mere 1.8% of capital, according to PitchBook in 2024. This simply must change. Women-led firms consistently outperform and fuel economic growth that benefits everyone. If we don't break down these barriers, we will never fulfill our true potential. So International Women's Day and celebrating the impact of women, it's not just a celebration, it's a call to action. Every single member of this community, every single person in this room has the power to drive the change that was described by the leaders who opened up today. Not just one day, but every day. We do this work 12 months of the year. So I want to say to all the current and aspiring women founders and leaders in this room, to every champion and ally who supports them, thank you. It's an honor to be with you today to help drive this impact together. And it has never been more important, and it has always been about merit. Don't let anyone tell you different. So today we are going to be looking at the investment landscape, funding alternatives, and options for women founders to help fuel their growth. Why am I so passionate about this topic? We launched a Women Founders and Owners strategy at Invest Ottawa 7 years ago when women didn't see themselves in our program, in our staff, in our client base. And we overhauled it step by step with many members of our community. And from that strategy came SheBoot, the Investment Readiness Bootcamp that's now become a national nonprofit organization that supported 52 women founders with 52 women angels and catalyzed what I'm allowed to tell you is 35 million in follow-on investment. It's actually closer to 55. We can drive change, and we will. And the esteemed leaders that are going to join us for this panel discussion today are doing just that, and they're here to give you inspiration and actionable insight. Let's begin. All right, excellent. Now, as we address the opening question, I would love for each of you to introduce yourselves, your role, why you're passionate about being here today. I thought we would open up with something big and broad. how would you describe the current investment landscape for women founders today? Kayla, I've had the pleasure of working with you for a long time. She's also one of DMZ's top 10 women leaders, just announced last week, that I discovered this morning. So wanted to give her a shout out. Tell us a little bit about you and about what you think of the current landscape today.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Sonia. Good morning, everybody. My name is Kayla Isabel, CEO of Startup Canada. We're a national nonprofit organization that help connect founders just like you to resources, tools, community, essentially all of the supports that exist for early stage founders looking to build businesses. This question, comes every single International Women's Day. Where are we at? How are things looking? And I wish, I'm so looking forward to the day where I say, it's fixed, gender parity. We've got everything, women are getting the investment they deserve. But we are still very, very far away from that place. If there's one sort of call to action I could make from today's session, it would be to check out the Women's Entrepreneurship Knowledge Hub 2024 report on women's entrepreneurship. I think Wendy's going to be chatting through it in a little bit. But that gives you a really good summary of where we're at in terms of the status of support for women's entrepreneurs with capital sort of front and center. There are some promising stats that are coming forward in this space. About 4% of venture capital in Canada at the moment is going to women entrepreneurs. It's been 2% historically, so some progress on that side. We're seeing a lot more women-led funds putting capital into the hands of women from women investors on the other side of the table. Incredible programs like SheBoot that Sonia mentioned, and great nonprofits, charities, support organizations that are championing these needs. But we still have so far to go. I think we're seeing great investments through the Government of Canada. The Women's Entrepreneurship Strategy is a huge push, providing capital and various supports to women founders. But again, we're not where we need to be in terms of support. I'm extremely passionate about this topic, not just in being able to see checks being written to women founders, but making sure no money is left on the table. There are no money's being left on the table. We'll be talking about different financing strategies shortly, but there are a tremendous number of grants, of funds, of programs that offer funding in addition to mentorship, in addition to concrete program support that founders don't even know exist. So my passion is really helping make our system more efficient, that each of one of you know exactly which support organizations exist, at what stage of your entrepreneurship journey, where you should be accessing those supports, and at least coming from an informed perspective versus, oh, I never had any idea that even existed in the first place. I hate hearing that from founders. So I'm passionate about the efficiency and sorry.
This is exactly the reason for this panel today, to give you all the actionable insight you need, no matter what stage, no matter what background, no matter what type of company.
So we'll get into it in a second. I'll pass over to my other panelists.
Julie, welcome.
Thank you so much. Hi, everybody. I am Julie Ellis, and my history as an entrepreneur is that in 2003 in Hamilton, Ontario, we turned on the lights in a little basement and started making labels, and Mabel's Labels was born. And we made personalized name labels for kids that were super sticky, super durable, did everything we said they would do, had an unlimited guarantee on customer service. And it was an interesting time to start a direct-to-consumer e-commerce business. Shopify did not exist. There was no social media. But we knew and were convinced in our hearts that the women we stood at the school playground, the daycare pickup, the soccer field, the gymnastics club, who shared tips about the things they loved to other moms and what was best for their kids, would spread the word about our little business. And so 150,000 Facebook fans later, celebrity following. I can't even tell you how many times we were lucky and fortunate enough to be covered in People magazine, on Celebrities Kids Things. We were able to sell that business. We had reached 8 figures revenue, 40 employees. We sold the business to Avery Labels, which was suited us because Avery Labels is actually owned by a Canadian company called CCL Industries out of Toronto. They were going to keep our team in the same building in Hamilton, and somebody from us would actually get to run our business. And so today they are still there. They have our former director of marketing is the general manager. I have been out for 9 years, and in that 9 years, I ran a business for somebody else. I started investing and joined Angel One and somehow got talked into becoming the chair of the board there. And now I'm out really focusing. Thank you. I focus on women, and I've actually decided that I'm only going to invest in women because there are a lot of great businesses. Thank you. There are a lot of great businesses started by men without question, but they don't need the help. Not as much as we do. And I think it's really important that we look for different ways to bring groups around us and invest to help all of us rise, because this is not a small problem that we're facing, and we need to figure out how to work together to tackle it, raise the awareness. I think the awareness is there. I mean, the stats are bad. Everybody knows that, but we don't seem to be gaining the momentum that we're going to need to find. So I really think that we need to work together and find new ways to support each other in our businesses to help grow. So thank you.
Amazing. Authentic investment, authentic belief in fueling women founders. Amazing. Welcome to the panel.
I was asked last minute. I work with. I've been programs that supports for women, so I come at it from a different angle than wonderful. I help you prepare to ask for me, and
Wow.
I think there's a few points we need. My mic's not working.
Oh, there it is. Okay,
Yes. Okay.
so what's important is to build a very solid foundation from which to grow. The first step is to write a business plan. And everybody goes, don't want to do it. Look at the statistics, look it up. Women and men is equal on this. If you write a good business plan, you're more likely to succeed. People that are going to give you money want to see that business plan. It proves to them that you've done your research. I mean, serious research. You have a bright idea. Who else has the same bright idea? How is yours different than everybody else's? How are you going to succeed with that difference? What are your competition? What are places in the opportunity that are risk? How do you manage that risk? You can't negate it, but you can manage it. You can, and you tell in your business plan how I'm going to manage those risks. And you have to do your numbers. You have to have a spreadsheet. It has to be sincere. It has to be honest. It has to be realistic. You should under-promise and overachieve. So these are the key elements. If you want to join Casa Foundation Entrepreneurs Points for some of the programs that we offer, we teach you how to write a proper business plan. But the most important part of a business plan is it doesn't go up on a shelf and collect dust. It sits beside you. And every time you're offered an opportunity, you think of another great idea, you have to define it against your business plan. So anybody who's listened to me will know what I say. You have a book and it's a great idea. You write it in there, you put the date on it and you put it away because it doesn't fit what you're doing today. I work here in Canada. I also have a company in Critical Solutions with a co-partnered, and we do potable water in Africa. We're in 5 countries. One of the things that we do with all our people when we start to work with them is we narrow the field. We paint with a broad brush. And then we say, what do I have to do next? What do I have to accomplish next to take me on my journey to my vision? And it's when you narrow the focus that you start to become successful. Any entrepreneur I've ever met has wonderful ideas and they're scattered all over. You're convergent thinkers. You're always thinking. But the business plan will monitor you, control what you're thinking, and get you to the next step in success. Then these lovely ladies can give you some money.
Amazing actionable insight. Core fundamentals. Let's talk now about the alternative types of financing that are available, from impact investing and revenue-based financing, crowdfunding and grants. What do you believe are the most accessible funding sources today for women founders from all walks of life?
Yeah, I think we'll all provide kind of a different lens on this question. Maybe I'll start with where to find an inventory of what funding actually exists, because I think that is actually a very practical place to start. And to my point earlier, we don't want to be leaving money on the table that exists that nobody's actually applying for. So a couple of really core resources that I recommend to founders as an initial starting point. Through the federal government, through ISED, there's a tool called the Business Benefits Finder. If you Google it, it pops up in your Google search. You put in a couple of criteria about your business and essentially an inventory of various grants, research funding opportunities, hiring, funding, programs that potentially have a loan attached to them. Think, futurepreneur type of program, looking at BDC's updated loans and programs that have been launched. Even as of Friday, there's new funding that's come out. It will essentially give you a large inventory so you get a bit of a lay of the land where this funding might be. Second resource that's very complementary and similar is through an entrepreneur that was trying to solve this problem from her lens. That's Brianna from Pocketed. Similar type of exercise. You put in some criteria around your business, and it will spit out various funding and potentially a couple of the elements that the government site may not have picked up in its process. So 2 really great resources on that side. And that is a great starting point. I think another lens that we often forget, we look at VCs, we look at angels, we look at all these folks that can potentially write you the check that you think you need at a particular juncture of your business. Sometimes, absolutely, that is what you need to scale. In other times, start with sales. Start with, really figuring out, is there a market for your product or service? Are people actually going to buy what you're trying to sell? And it doesn't have to be to hundreds of thousands of potential consumers. Sell to a small group of people. Build a bit of a pipeline, build a bit of revenue that you can then put back into your business while also validating that your business sort of needs to be in that space. I think we often sort of skip over this sales approach, and particularly when we're looking at big checks that you're looking to scale, potential tech company or some of these, larger ventures that require more capital, we forget about, obviously a really anchor part of the entrepreneurship journey. Third, it's not sort of non-traditional, it's traditional, but in the last couple of years, we've seen great progress in seeing more women-led funds writing checks to women. So a couple of quick shout outs to Sandpiper Ventures, the 51, the Firehood, Sheboot provides a lot of capital, BDC's Thrive Fund. There are a lot of specific women's funds for you to access. And so check out what type of criteria they're also looking for in those funds. And obviously it's target demographic that often doesn't get a lot of this more substantial funding. So those are my kind of key recommendations there.
I love this. So just a little note, Sheboot is going to be opening up our call for applications April 1. And so any tech-enabled women founder in this room, encourage you to apply. I absolutely love the bootstrapping concept. So bootstrapping, you're not losing equity, you're building up your business, proving that you've got that traction. Huge fan. Amazing. Julie.
I also think we should not be afraid of borrowing money to fund our ideas. I sat in a mastermind not that long ago and we were brainstorming on revenue generating problems. And somebody finally, after we'd gone on for like half an hour, somebody said, I feel like if this was a table full of men, we would have gone out and borrowed the money and we wouldn't be talking about this anymore. and we all, it might not have been exactly true, but it was that like moment of like, we're stuck in our own minds about how cautious we're going to be about our already successful businesses. And so I do really think that looking at all the different ways of, you need money short term to get over the next hump, but I do think that it allows you to grow a bigger business before you share your equity out. So you have a higher valuation, you give away less to get more if you can do it later. And there are values to those kinds of things. I mean, the other reality comes down to, like, I can honestly tell you, I worked 2 full-time jobs for quite a long time when we started Mabel's Labels because it did not pay me. And, I know was a hard reality. And it did take, like, at one point, my husband, when I was 8 months pregnant with my 3rd kid, working 2 full-time jobs, he told me that we couldn't do that anymore. And I was like, really? We have a problem? And so, there's also a time when you push over into something that's not tenable any longer. And then we were able to sit down and say, okay, could it start paying us like $1,000 a month? Can we put our stake in the ground somewhere? So I just think that looking at that whole picture of how you could get, pick pick the rock up and move it forward a little bit before it get to the next level and the next level, so that the big picture can come into focus for you is also important.
Can I add a resource on the loan side
Yes,
as well?
please.
So absolutely agree on the loan side. And through the Women's Entrepreneurship Strategy funded through the Government of Canada, the WEOC network of women support organizations, there are different provincial entities that you can apply to. They have active loans that you can apply for today. So if you're looking for any of those resources, they're one of our partners. So let me know.
Amazing.
So I'll go back to.
Yeah, thank you. So it's important when you're looking at where you're going to find your funding, go back to that business plan. Is it written for the person that you're going to ask money from? Is it written for, say, a grant? So if you look at the grants, they're very specific. If you don't answer all the criteria, if you don't tick all the boxes. So when we were looking for money for InCritical for our program, we were talking to the American bank to access money because the product we were going to be using was in the US. And I went online, then they did have US aid. And then I also looked at what their criteria was. And I answered all of their criteria in a covering letter to my business plan. And the first words out of their mouth were, "You checked all the boxes." So I'm already 100% ahead of anyone else who didn't check all the boxes. So what you want to look at is, yes, there's money to be given to you, but you have to prove to that person that you're a reasonable risk. And you show that by your intelligence, by the fire in your belly, your excitement. You also prove it by answering all the questions appropriately and not twist them or turn them, but be specific. And do your research. My letter was only 1 page, but it took me 2 weeks to create it because I was pulling numbers. I was pulling research. I was making identification of the need. I was identifying what we were going to do with it. It was all there. Plus how it was going to help build businesses in Milwaukee. It was how we'd increase the employment, because that's one of their criteria. Are you going to create jobs? You're talking to the government. They want to create jobs. Will there be a filter down into the society, or is the money getting yanked out? These are all the kinds of things you've got to be well educated in your business to understand that the money is there. There's lots of money around. I know that. But how do you access it? You access it by doing the homework, building the foundation, testing it. That's where I had a client who wanted to start her own business and she wasn't too sure. She was using one of the social medias, can't remember which one now. And she was selling a simple exercise program that was a PDF file. And it was a test market. And she made $56,000 proving that there was a place for her business. That was her test market. It was simple, it was easy. She wasn't even selling anything extraordinary. Didn't cost her anything. Her time and her effort, and 2 little boys, twins. So these are the things you have to think about is there are paths, but everyone has their own path. It's what you think about, what you contain within yourself and how you believe your business, the fire in your belly. And then you have to decide where you're going to put your time, what effort do you have to put into it, what's important, what isn't important, and what is my next step. So if you're going to go after money, what's the first step? Identifying where the money's coming from. Second step, go into each one of those places and find out what their criteria is. Third, find out if you can answer all of those questions appropriately. Save yourself some time. If you don't fit the criteria, don't go after it, because they'll say no down the road. You're wasting your time. You're spinning your wheels. If you're going, you can go to a bank. Banks lend money. Amazing. So how are you going to do this? Figure it out. Make sure that your business plan is solid. You've got the numbers, you've got the experience, and you have hopefully some sales. Now people will at least sit up and listen to you. It's no longer a pie in the sky. It's a real business. You can touch and feel it.
impactful, fundamental insight that you can put to work. And certainly when we look across the funding landscape today, the investment landscape, one of the most inspirational women investors that I've ever spoken with is Monique Woodard. She leads Cake Ventures out of Silicon Valley. She is a very inspirational Black woman investor who supports different founders from every walk of life. And she sat on our stage and she said to every investor in this room who's not investing in women-based businesses, particularly women of color, women from diverse intersections, including LGBTQ plus community, you're just throwing away dollars. And she was literally making this very compelling speech. And of course, we had many male investors that needed that education. There is still a bias inside our investment landscape, even when you've got all that incredible data and all the business case. How can women in this room, how many women entrepreneurs in this room, current or aspiring? Hands up. Okay, so we've got a good number here. How can we give them that competitive edge and that opportunity to overcome that bias that we know still exists?
Yeah, I mean, one, the system has to change. Like the full system that we are all operating in. If we continue pushing forward, we're going to make small progress. We've seen our ability to do that through sheer, determination. We need to see this system that we operate in change. What I've loved about this event and in previous years as well, and I know there's some financial institutions in the room, we've talked about how the FIs need to change internally, training bankers, sort of training the various folks that are allocating funding to be aware of that bias and to measure transparency from FIs, from various folks that are writing these checks. If we saw and had to publicize how much funding went to women entrepreneurs individually, not just in these large, 2% of VC funding goes to women entrepreneurs, what would that do if we put that actually as a much more public, not shaming kind of opportunity, but I think we need a lot more transparency and a lot more accountability wherever we are talking about women's funding. In terms of other sort of women-led activities or things that we can do to sort of overcome the bias in the funding ecosystem. I think we've all sort of mentioned it a little bit so far. The strong business case with strong data. Any entrepreneur going to an investor or a funder needs to be backed, have a data-driven pitch. Founders really need to understand their traction, their revenue growth, the market, financial projections with very clear metrics. Often over and above what you think. Women don't ask for as much money as men do. We need to ask for more money to get more money and come into those conversations with the data to say, this is where this funding is going to go, and this is how it's going to make an impact in my business. We need to position ourselves as scalable ventures, profitable ventures, addressing concerns and the bias that we know, investors are going to come to a women entrepreneur and assess risk. They're going to go to a man and look for growth. We need to sort of combat that narrative and come with that data and paint that vision and that future with that scalable vision, if that's the business you also want to build. To your point, everybody has a different path. If you don't want to scale and you just want to have, 1 or 2 employees, that's the business of your dreams, go for it. Don't feel the pressure to scale, but don't ever feel like you cannot build a large, successful venture because you're, a woman founder or because all these barriers exist. Couple of other things to consider: the women's focused investment communities, creating safe spaces to ask questions where you can, maybe get a couple of things wrong. Talk to folks that have actually been in these rooms, have had successful pitches. The Sheboot community is such a beautiful example of that, to have investors on the other side, a connection and a group of women entrepreneurs who are in the same boat that you are, who are not competitors. They are peers that you can sort of learn from and make sure that all the learnings that they are bringing to the table benefit all of you. Looking at industry-specific groups, entrepreneurship programs, mentorship, all of that scaffolding around your business is going to help both build your confidence, build your networks, and then have folks that are not in the room mention you in other spaces so that your business potentially becomes top of mind to folks that you might be going to investment in the future. Final element is really to reframe your business with confidence, with clarity, with ambition. We need to be more ambitious with the picture that we paint of our businesses, and not let whatever garbage imposter syndrome language, I don't use that word anymore because I'm so sick of, I brush my teeth every morning with imposter syndrome and I don't deserve what I get. Absolutely you do. I deserve everything that I get because I bust my ass. Like this is the mentality we need to have. And you might think that, there's a bit more ego in that or whatever. Think, what would Chad do? Vivian, the founder of Cake and Curly Yaki, has this great term. She thinks, when she's feeling a bit of self-doubt or, going into an investment room or going into a space, she thinks, what would 26-year-old white Chad in tech, what would he do? What would he ask for? So in those moments, what would Chad do? And really, bump up that confidence and know that you're probably not asking for too much.
I love this. And women-based and led businesses perform better. The research shows that the return on investment is consistently high. I love that. So have that confidence. Julie.
One of the things that popped into my mind was also listening to you, both of you, is like the first grant application you write, it will be the hardest. It doesn't matter if it's a $10,000 or a $1 million grant. It's going to be the hardest because you have no repository of things you've written in the past that you can lean into next time. So I would just say, don't be intimidated because there is a hump to get over the first time that will get easier as you go. And so sometimes it's getting the first thing out, right? Always. And, you have to learn your storytelling. And I think this is for grant writing, it's for business plan writing, and it's also for, pitching your business for investment. If you have a poorly architected story, it's not going to say to people, wow, this is something I want to get behind. So it's figuring out and really working hard on the storytelling piece. Yes, you have to have your numbers. Yes, it has to be real. You have to know where you're going, how you're going to do it. Like all of those technical pieces have to be there, but you have to come in front of me and make me say, wow, this looks really cool. So I think it's also about those pieces of how you tell the story. And I think, a lot of things like SheBoot and like other pitch competition type atmospheres where they put a lot of hours into training you about that pitch and stuff is a really good thing because it allows you that time and space to hone. And yes, winning is great, but often the experience is equally as valuable as coming out on top. It will help you go to the bank and ask for money, get into Futurepreneur, or do other programs that even though you may not always come out on the top. So I think it is a really important thing to think about how you practice getting out into the world and telling the story of your business. It's a really, really important and crucial part.
Awesome feedback.
If I could pick up on one thing you said, telling the story. Research has been done. And if you look, stories have been told since before we had written words. That's how humans connect. The research has been done. When I give you facts and figures, you use one part of your brain. If I tell you a story, you're going to use 7 parts of your brain. It's going to stay with that person longer. It's going to resonate with them, and they're going to react very differently if you tell a story. So stories are important. I teach with stories. I talk about stories. It's essential. Hone yours. But if you ever stood in front of me in a practice pitch, the first thing I usually say is too many words. Okay? You have to know your business so well that you can outline what you are, who you are, and what you're doing in 3 sentences. Because that's all the interest people have. Okay, so practice, pitch properly, tell your story, talk about not what you do, but the result of what you do. In other words, don't talk about the benefits. Don't care. Talk about what it does for that person in front of you. So if it's somebody lending you money, they want to be rest assured that they're going to get their money paid back in a timely manner. Right? If it's one of the groups of women that also want to have you as a success, you put that in it as well. So it's being well-rounded. And we're talking about women asking for money. One of the things you need to learn about money is that it's just an instrument. Get away from the fear. The other thing I want you to do is collect no's. N-O, no. How many times have you pitched your business and had a no? If you keep going after those no's, eventually you'll get a yes. If you look at what you did, figured out why you didn't get the money, and change your pitch. Most people who say no will give you some advice if you ask. What did I do right? What did I do wrong? What did I miss? So you can continue to develop your pitch, your elevator speech. It should be part of who you are. I should be able to walk around each one of these entrepreneurs, and in 3 sentences, you should be able to tell me where you are in your business, what you do, and how you what you're thinking about. And if it was me, what are you selling to me that I want? That's the way men work.
Grit and resilience underpinning that is such a powerful, powerful message, and it builds on the earlier remarks today. I know that we're coming to the end of our journey in the panel. I would love to hear 1 or 2 powerful tips that you could offer this audience in terms of negotiating for themselves, whether it's a loan, whether it's a funding opportunity, pitching to a customer. How can the women in this room negotiate better?
Go first.
Ask for more than you think you need. Like, don't be afraid to, don't keep yourself small. Like, you have to be big, and you have to push I talk a lot about this in my work. You have to step into the big, gorgeous goals that you imagine for yourself. And when you do that, you will push on the edges of what you have always believed possible for yourself. And that will make you afraid. You need to figure out how to work through the fear and ask for more than you think was possible, because that's how you will win and how you will grow the business of your dreams.
Awesome.
So if you're in a marketplace and you're negotiating a price, in markets you can do that. I lived in Mexico. Everything was negotiated. You always start low if you want to buy it, and you always start high if you're selling. And then you find out what's in the middle. It's done here too. Okay, it's just a little more hidden. So when you ask for money, qualify what you're asking for, because they're not going to give you money if they don't think you need it. So your numbers will be important, but you always ask for that extra little bit so you can settle where you really need to be. And it's interesting, women always undersell what they need. Okay, we're the ones that run the household often, we're the ones that run the budget. So we're always looking at it. Also, I'm going to give you another piece. Don't ask for money you don't need. Qualify everything. One of the things where I see, and my husband's sitting here, we've seen more failures at the 5-year mark than at the beginning. It's because they overextended themselves too quickly and didn't monitor their spending. So be aware of that wherever you are in your business, is stick to your business models, stick to your financial models, get rid of those great ideas, not today. Focus on your next step in your business, and always check the income coming in versus the income going out, but not just when it's coming in, it's also when it comes in, will it cover the bills when they come in? So it's really managing that budget. I'm also a financial planner, so I have first level certificate CFP. Getting proper budgets done. You can do your monthly, your weekly, but can you do your monthly? Can you do your traditional, extra money at certain times of the year? There's all kinds of things that we have to think about, and you have to be able to answer those. They should be at your fingertips. If the lender says to you, well, what about this? Don't hum and haw, have an answer. So the best way to do that is to take your financial plan, whatever it is, and take it to a stranger who knows nothing about your business and does no numbers, and run them through it. And they'll poke at the areas you've missed, where there isn't clarity of understanding. One of the things that's really important too when you're looking at a business plan and asking for money is, what happens if your bright idea has a better solution in 6 months? So you can't be a one-stop shop. You can't just have that one idea. You have to have other ideas for revenue, future revenue prospects. As you move through your business, and you can even put dates on them. In 6 months, we can add this. In 18 months, we can add this. And then there's a list beyond that we'll see what we're going to do. So you're showing them how you're going to grow the business by having extra revenue statements. These are all key parts of being understood, being accepted in the world of finance. And we have to live there whether we want to or not. This is what fuels the rest of your business.
Excellent guidance. Kayla.
If I can add a couple additional ones, especially in times like right now, diversify. Give yourself a little bit of cushion by diversifying your potential revenue streams, especially with what's happening down south. It's difficult to put all of your eggs in selling in one market or going into one basket. So diversify. Try not to give up too much equity too soon, or just really understand what you are giving up. Speak the language of finance, be very comfortable with the language that's going to be used in different rooms, so that you can confidently negotiate the right terms and understand what you're giving up at what stage of your business and how that's going to impact you long term. Negotiate is another piece of advice that, often we come into these conversations thinking, oh, thank you so much. You want to invest in my business? I'll take whatever I can get. Operate from a position of strength, negotiate just as you would salary with an employer, just as you would terms and buying a used car. Bring in those negotiation skills that you use in other parts of your life and make sure that you're always positioning some type of negotiation in the conversations that you're having. Final piece of advice around negotiating and just following your intuition. Don't choose the wrong investor. If you're getting a bad spidey sense about someone who wants to give you money, follow that intuition. We've talked to so many founders who, in desperation, have said yes to somebody they knew was not seeing the alignment in the vision of their business. They knew they were going to be pushing them into the wrong direction. And it is so much more difficult to navigate through those relationships and have to build a business constantly in conflict just because this person now has, a tremendous amount of potential equity in your business. So look for those red flags. Follow that intuition in your conversations when you're finding those investors, and look for things like transparency. Look for, get somebody to actually look over your terms. And this might be not your first experience bringing in an investor, but there are a tremendous number of other entrepreneurs who can say, look out for this. Talk to a lawyer. Look out for this. Don't make those mistakes just in desperation to try to get something landed. And make sure you're aligned to the future goal. What is your exit strategy? Is it in alignment with your investors? Are there, gender biases that you're seeing existing in the current terms? Would a male counterpart with the same business be getting this type of, agreement? Think through some of those elements and make sure you're negotiating at those tables.
Incredible inspiration and actionable insight to help you grow and succeed as entrepreneurs and part of a community. We do have a long way to go. I give deep thanks to the Casa Foundation, to all of our speakers, for everyone who is investing, propelling, and supporting women founders, current and aspiring, from every single walk of life. You can lead from any position. What can you do today to support a woman founder in your network? Can you be a mentor, an investor? Can you be someone who champions, who promotes and supports? There are so many different ways to do that. I'm going to leave you with a final thought. Nike produced an incredible commercial for the Super Bowl about knowing your place. It profiled some incredible women athletes. Know your place. Your place is first. Own it. Thank you.
Okay. Can we have another round of applause for that amazing panel? Okay, perfect. So they talked about securing the bag, which was step one, but making sure your business runs like a well-oiled machine, well, that's a flex. And that's a flex we got from our awesome panelists who were up here, who gave us their words of wisdom. So we've talked about money. Let's talk about something equally as important: technology. We're in a world with AI and automation, which are literally rewriting the rules of business. And if you're not leveraging tech, then you might as well be working harder instead of smarter. So we're going to talk about tools that can streamline operations, boost efficiency, and let's be honest, give you a little more time to relax. So leading this conversation is Dr. Wendy Sukir, founder of Diversity Institute and a leading voice in innovation, tech, and business transformation. And our panelists will be the wonderful Professor Odoy and Professor Adriana Carrillo. Please give a warm round of applause for our awesome speaker and panelists.
Good to see you. Before we get started, I think I have 3 minutes to make a few opening comments, and I do want to talk about tech. But I think there are a few things that we also have to, we can't ignore in a room like this on a day like this. And first off, I did want to say that I'm from the Diversity Institute at TMU, and we always start by acknowledging the land that we're on. We're on the traditional territory of the Mississauga of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Wendat peoples. And many of you know that the university that I'm at has changed its name in part of its commitment to truth and reconciliation. I think it's also important because we've talked a lot about women and the importance of recognizing the diversity of women. And it's worth acknowledging that we are now in the second decade for people of African descent, many of whom are in the room. And I think the final thing that I really wanted to say is that we need to remember that women are 51% of the population. And in the last panel, they made reference to the 51, which is an investment and network targeting women. We are 51%. We are not the 51st state, nor will we be. I don't think we can have a discussion about entrepreneurship, about tech, about equity, diversity, and inclusion without acknowledging the very real threat that we face south of the border, not just in terms of tariffs, and we'll be talking about that later, but in terms of the challenges to commitments around equity, diversity, and inclusion. And we've seen a number of large corporations, frankly, backpedal. We've seen changes to the legislative structures in the United States. We have to remember this is Canada, and Canada's foundation is the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Canada has very strong national and provincial protections for our equity, diversity, and inclusion commitments. And we have to remember that this is not just about social justice. This is, as the last panel mentioned, about good economics. And earlier this week, some of you were at the launch of the State of Women Entrepreneurship. In 2020, which is the last data we have available, women entrepreneurs in this country, the largest percentage of them in the province of Ontario, contributed $90 billion to the economy and created almost 1 million jobs. Okay? That's not political correctness and wokeness. That is reality. Women now own 20% of businesses in this country. And we have to really remember that and remind people of that point at every opportunity. And what that means is, of course, we want special funds. Of course, we want special attention to address the historic disadvantage that women have faced, that Black entrepreneurs have faced, and so on. But what we really want to do, if we're going to drive lasting change, is to remove barriers at every stage in the entrepreneurship ecosystem. That starts with the stereotypes and assumptions about who an entrepreneur is and what an entrepreneur does. Some of you may know that there's a lot of focus on tech and manufacturing. Health and beauty have faster growth rates, export more, and have lower failure rates than tech. And yet they are not central to our investments around innovation or economic growth. And the same thing is true when we look at femtech. So we have to really challenge some of the fundamental principles that underpin the strategies around economic development. We have to challenge the standards that banks and funders use for making decisions about who gets money and who doesn't. And that's why some of the investment organizations targeting women are so really, really critical, because they're challenging those traditional assumptions. We have to think about, I teach at a university where we teach whole courses and there isn't a single woman entrepreneur who is presented in the 13 weeks when we talk about entrepreneurship. So there's a lot that needs to be done at every layer in the ecosystem. And I loved what Kayla said. Access to financing is important, but access to customers, even better. And procurement, targeting women, is absolutely fundamental. So all of those things are true, but where I see enormous opportunity in this crisis is to leverage technology. Think about how hard COVID was, and yet the percentage of women entrepreneurs in this country grew. Think about how hard COVID was, and yet we did in weeks what people thought would take years in terms of digitization and the adoption of technology. How many people in this room were either born outside of Canada or have one parent who was born outside of Canada? That, ladies and gentlemen, is Canada's competitive advantage, because we need to be growing markets, not just looking south of the border, but harnessing and leveraging the diversity that we see in this room to create opportunities for entrepreneurs and for Canadian businesses. So there's a lot, I think, of good that can come out of this crisis. And one of the biggest opportunities, also potentially a threat, but one of the biggest opportunities surrounds the adoption of new technologies. Now, lots of people, when you say AI, lots of people think coding, coding, coding. In fact, with generative AI, I would argue it's the English major's revenge, because you don't need to know one line of coding. You need to know how to construct an argument and ask questions. And the potential that generative AI has for transforming businesses, for making a small solopreneurship look like a massive multinational, is incredible. And that's what we're going to talk about in the panel. So thank you for indulging me in my sermon. I feel like we should, I feel like in addition to land acknowledgements, we should all rise and sing "O Canada" every time we get together. But I'll ask our panelists to first introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about your perspective on artificial intelligence and technology in general.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Thanks for having me. Of course, every time I'm excited to be here, but today I'm more happy and excited being the only man on the panel at the women's event. I'm very excited to be here. My name is Professor Odwe. I'm a professor at Humber College. I teach finance and mathematics. I'm also the president of the Ghanaian Canadian Chamber of Commerce, and I do a lot of other things. I'm also a chartered accountant, operate a firm here in GTA called Reality Capital Management, where we deal with accounting, bookkeeping, taxation, consulting, and training. Today, we are here to talk about AI, but before we even dive into the program, I just want women to know that, AI is not here to take away your jobs, as everybody, that's a perspective out there, but AI is actually here to enhance your business. And so the only way that AI will take away your job is for you to sit down and do nothing. What happens is that the individual who actually research and get to know more in AI will be the one taking away your job, because they will rather be way advanced than you in AI. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Adriana Carrillo, and I am a professor at Centennial College of Innovation, Entrepreneurship, and International Business. And I am also an entrepreneur of a small Canadian small business that is trying to change how people eat. And well, I'm here because I was asked to talk about how artificial intelligence impacts businesses. I'm going to share my experience for sure, and I'm very happy to be here. Thank you.
So first off, both of you have said that you see AI as having lots of potential. I wonder if you can maybe drill down into that a little more specifically and talk about some of the tools that you see in helping women entrepreneurs move forward. And maybe you can start.
Yeah, sure. No problem at all. Well, my experience with artificial intelligence starts when certainly my students start being so efficient at submitting paperwork, right? Or new ideas to me. I tend to read most of the papers because I learn from them. But I start noticing that things were like too similar in certain ways. And I start certainly, as everyone in the end of 2022, exploring artificial intelligence. Mainly my experience with artificial intelligence has been in marketing, because I have to manage my marketing. I don't have yet the resources to spend in hiring someone. And something that I have been using since, I don't know, pretty much more than a year is ChatGPT, which if no one knows what is ChatGPT in this room, I would be very impressed of. And what I like about connecting with this thing, particularly for my business, is that I am not a marketer, but I know my business. So the artificial intelligence on ChatGPT is able to manage to create marketing material that it will take me hours of time for me to do it. I sincerely have used ChatGPT even while driving. While I have an idea, I'm serious, I shouldn't be saying this, but when I have an idea, I share it with ChatGPT and say, you know what, this could be awesome if you can help me write a caption for something that I just see or that I just think, right? And it is a second that I get an idea, right? And I can also share my ideas, and the system or whoever is on the other side, the technology will give me an opportunity for me as well to assess if that is really what I want to say, right? Or maybe give me an opportunity to learn from how ChatGPT will market something. And again, I am not a marketer. I thought that I was, but I am not. And that is the way in which it has helped me a lot into building my social media. In other regards, well, I wish that one day artificial intelligence is able to help me automate my manufacturing facility. One day, I really hope so. And you are right, artificial intelligence do have this perspective that is going to put people out of jobs. But I really think that we have to scale ourselves. We have to build better skills at managing the new tools, the new technologies that are going there. And the jobs are there. It's just we may be afraid of actually tackling or connecting or using technology. So hopefully that helps in some regard.
How many people in the room are also using ChatGPT or other tools for their marketing? So there you go. There you go.
Yeah. Well, that's good. That's perfect. To add to your point, I mean, ChatGPT is a good tool, but one of the things that I would like to just mention here is that once you go in there and type everything, whatever you wanted to get, you still have to pull it out and try to read it carefully and do some adjustments. You know, you don't just go in and just use ChatGPT and just copy whatever is there, because sometimes it's machine learning. You know, it might not give you exactly what you intend to get. So that's what I want to caution. But yes, there's a lot of AI tools out there. Artificial intelligence is where the world is going. You need to do research. For instance, presentation has been one of the hardest, aspects of business. When you are speaking or presenting something, has been very difficult to organize. Now, with the help of presentation.ai, you can put up a nice presentation on any topic that you would like to discuss, right? So it comes out with all the nice, gestures on any presentation. Presentation.ai. One of the tools in AI that I feel has been very helpful, and those were tools that we didn't know when I was in school. Is Cora.ai. That you can just quickly post any article or any kind of PDF presentation on there, and it will summarize it for you. So like 50 pages, you can just quickly go through and summarize it for you for like 1 page. So that'll help you a lot. So those are tools that we didn't have when we were in school. But what that does is that it also discourages you from reading. And so what AI does is that there's always, the advantages are enormous. Well, what I want to caution is that you should also look at the other side of AI. You don't just put in things and then just walk away. Example is a business plan. So for instance, you go to ChatGPT and put in that you want a business plan for a catering business. It will give you all the statistics and the highlights. You then need to extract that, analyze it, and make sure that the information that you have specifically pertains to your type of business, or narrow it down, do a little bit of research. So because if you don't take time, the AI will make you become lazy. And so those are the aspects I just want to caution. Thank you so much.
I think it's good that you point out that you can't. Someone said to me that it's sort of like having a research assistant. They still require supervision, because it's kind of like reminds me of one of my bad boyfriends, like really, really well-intentioned, but sometimes he made stuff up and lied. And the problem is, ChatGPT will make stuff up. It will hallucinate, and other AI, there are all kinds of horrible examples of mistakes that AI can make and really cause risk. Plus, the issues around IP, right? If you use the free versions, you're basically giving up all of your IP. So it's quite important that you also have an understanding not just of the potential, but the limitations and the risks associated with technology. I wonder if you can talk a little bit more about how you make decisions about AI tools and what to use and when. And can you talk a little bit about the risks or the challenges that you've seen?
I'm glad that you talk about intellectual property, because it's right. Whenever you submit something, your idea is something that it's going to be used, or in a way, it's part of the array of information that now it is being used, right? To the question of, sorry, I just got lost.
Just the risks
Oh, yeah,
and how
the
you make
risk. Yes,
sure
the
that
risk.
you don't.
Yes.
You don't.
There is a lot of risks. There is a
yes,
lot of risks.
there you go.
Losing your intellectual property, losing your ideas to a wider audience, it is there. But also the fact that information, it's power, right? So when you are sharing, let's say, a business plan, like that is your own way of analyzing your business. Nobody knows your business more than you do. And ChatGPT will be using an array of different ways of putting together information. And ChatGPT makes lots of mistakes. I fight with him very often. And sincerely, I find that whatever input you put is the input that you are going to get, right? So verifying information is very important. And the risk that I see the most is that people use your information as a kind of the meat for them to do other things, right? When I asked ChatGPT, and I'm going to be very blunt on this, I was making a negotiation with a supplier. No, it's not a supplier, it's a retailer. And I didn't get what they wanted from me. Like the information that they were given to me was completely out of my understanding. So I asked GPT why this company is asking me for this, right? Like why they are trying me to give more than what I am able to give them. And the rationale that ChatGPT gave me is, well, they need to pay this, they need to, all those percentage that they are asking you is for this, or that. Knowledge that I didn't have, which is good, like in a way, I learn from that situation. And it gives me the opportunity to understand better, but I have to give ChatGPT my information. And now ChatGPT have my pricing. It has how I make my margins. And certainly that is something that in the future could be used in I don't know, like it is private information of my business. Additionally to that, related to what you mentioned about the fact that we need to be cautious. In my business, I do a product that doesn't exist. And when I ask, let's say, some type of generative video or picture information to generate a cactus chip being eaten with cheese, they will never put my product the way it is. They will always bring me a complete different thing. So the poor understanding of newer things that are putting in the market, it's a risk, because if your assistant doesn't know what you are asking ChatGPT, or they are not knowledgeable about your product, the input that they're going to give you is a completely disaster. And that's why I don't use artificial intelligence for my specific products, because they don't know what I'm talking about. And that's a big risk, that they don't have meat to give me feedback on what I need.
Thanks so much.
That's great. Well, like everything, AI also have disadvantages. There's always risk. But as you know, for those of you who are studying risk management, you can either eliminate, you cannot fully eliminate risk. You can either reduce it or transfer it. And so, like everything, you have to trust but verify. So when you put any information into an AI tool like ChatGPT, you always want to verify. You have to trust it, but make sure you verify it. So I always come down to business plan. You can put into ChatGPT a business plan model. It will give you a full model on how to, start your business. However, you know the business idea that you have, right? ChatGPT will be comparing you to. You might be looking for small businesses, but they might be comparing to larger organizations. And so you know that you're not up to that space. And so what you need to do is that you need to download that data and still do the research. You still follow the principles of business planning. So you want to make sure that it conforms to the business ideologies that you have as a company or you have as a person. So you don't just take in the information. Similar to when Google came. When you're talking to students, they'll be like, I Googled it, but have you done the thorough research to ensure that the information that you have is accurate and specific? ChatGPT is very solid, it gives you informed data, but most of the time the data is huge. And so you need to narrow it down and take the information that pertains solely to your type of plan or your type of organization that you want to employ. So those are the few things that you need to keep in mind when using AI tools. But similar to anything, there's always risk to it. And like I said, you can reduce it by researching, or also you can transfer it, which means that you are going to look at other tools that are out there to ensure that whatever information that you've gathered is solid and strong. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a really good point that was made. First of all, the quality of the data that goes in has a direct impact on what comes out. But secondly, the structure of the prompt engineering process is very, very important. If you say, I'd like a market analysis on AI tools, okay, you'll get something. But if you say, I am the owner of a small business, I am developing a market plan for a new product to support social media, pretend you are a market analyst and provide me with a 2,000-word analysis of the products in the market, including the price, the description, the capacity, etc., you get a very, very different response. And sometimes what you need to do is break it down, start with something general, and then break it down into the pieces. So the process of the prompt engineering has a direct and measurable impact. And there are lots of, at the Future Skills Center, we have a competency framework for entrepreneurs around AI tools that start with sort of basic literacy and move up. But there's so much free stuff. You know, if you want a free course in prompt engineering, you can get 6 of them, and it's definitely worth investing a little bit in order to get a lot more out of the tools. I'm wondering if there are other issues. So we've talked quite a lot about ChatGPT, but I'm wondering if there are other tools that you would like to delve into in more detail, and maybe we can also get some comments from the audience on things that they're using and how they're using them. I know that many people, for example, with ChatGPT actually use personas where they'll have pretend you're the market analyst, pretend you're the project manager, pretend you're my VP of finance, and you'll get very different approaches to problem solving depending on who you say the AI is supposed to be. But what are some other tools that you've seen used effectively?
For me, I know other entrepreneurs in my network use artificial intelligence now for bookkeeping. I sincerely feel that that is an area that I hate in my business because it takes a lot of time. And these days, you just scan your receipts and the system automatically processes all that information. And it's super quickly, right? Every application or every artificial intelligence software that you may have, there are 2 versions, the one that it's costly and the one that it's free, right? So for me, I guess one area that I feel that I would love to invest is in managing my expenses of my whole bookkeeping using artificial intelligence. Some other areas that I would love to use it, it's in my manufacturing. I would really like to have a robot that does the work that I do every day because I handcraft my products and it is very, very time consuming. So having a robot that does things quickly for me, that would be an awesome way to take away some time for me to develop the business, connect with buyers, and do better things for the business or concentrate on other business. One thing that I use like a year ago, I actually create a song for my business. So that was an interesting thing. I didn't have to hire anyone. And I also will say that it is really very important as a business owner to know artificial intelligence because everybody's using it, right? So there is a supplier or a person that will come to you and say, hey, yeah, I will charge you $3,000 on this, right? And then they are using those tools that you can use it as well. It's just sometimes you don't have the time. So knowing how quick you can develop an actual output with any app or any software that exists, it's important. I still remember the first time that I met a marketer, they asked me $25,000 on the spot to start creating something for me, right? So these days, certainly even a logo can be created in a second with a free version of it. Right?
Yes, that's great. I'm glad that you brought in expenses. You know, for every small business, you need to keep books properly. So I always say in accounting, we always say that if you are a business that do not keep records, is like a body without bones in it. So it's going to be very difficult for you to survive. So you need to keep your books. And so nowadays, with most of the tools that are out there, it's easier for you to keep records as a business person. I mean, you were asking about what are the other tools that are out there. So the way I found the tools is that, like, for example, if you go online and just Google marketing.ai, you get so many AI tools that are out there. Accounting.ai, you get so many accounting tools for record keeping. There are some apps like Shoebox that is there. It quickly helps you to scan. You know, you can scan your receipts, so you can quickly keep your meals and entertainment. You can actually link it to your banking where it does all the bookkeeping for you without using QuickBooks. So there are so many tools out there. So the way I found the tools is I always add AI. So if I'm looking for marketing and I put marketing.ai, it's going to give me some CRM stuff on there that I can keep records. It's going to give me mail chips to be able to organize and all that. So the tools are there, but it's the usage of the tools. Sometimes you have a lot of tools and you're not able to use it. So one of the things that I would like us to learn from today is for us to learn the tools. You can have tools with you, but if you don't know how to use those tools, then it affects your ability to thrive. So that's what I want to bring out there. Thank you.
Can I just say something about that? But also knowing the result needs to be clear to you and understand that that result comes from a process. And as an accountant, you will certainly will know that there is something wrong with the results, right? Myself, it will be more difficult to know that the actual accounting, there is something that was biased from the AI, or maybe a receipt was considered differently from the one that it should be. So that knowledge is really very important, because sometimes you can completely be you may take a decision based on the final result, and it might have not been the correct one. So how it works, it's important. Sorry.
So basically, I hear you saying it doesn't require a huge investment in terms of startup costs, but it does require some investment in terms of time, and you have to be attentive to the quality assurance, right? But there's really no other reason why people shouldn't be diving in. So I wonder, there were lots of hands up in terms of people using AI tools. I wonder if we can open it up now to the audience to talk a little bit more about your experiences with AI tools. And I think there's a roving microphone. So who would like to start? Someone who's over there.
My name is Amara. I am a marketer and also an owner of a hair business called Oja Hair. We sell hair and we also empower women to start on their own business. So one of the AI tools that I recently got to use was Midjourney. So Midjourney is a generative AI for images, AI images, and videos as well. And one thing that I like about Midjourney is that you can use it for marketing. It's easy to, create videos or like images that you can put on your website, you can put on your social media to market your products. The only downside, and one of the things that I feel like should be improved is, with Midjourney, it's just the AI creating that image. You can't necessarily put your own product in the image. So if there's an AI for that, that would just be 100% at that point.
Great, thank you so much. Who else? Who else is using it for marketing? 3 people over in the other end of the room. Put your hands up again. Sorry, who's got the mic? Yes. Over by the pillar, yeah.
And sorry, in terms of Midjourney, I think it is a pay version for, and there is a free version that is very similar. So something that I have learned, I don't use many artificial intelligence softwares, but there is always the free version. Certainly the free version gives you less capacity, or there is more risk when you are sharing your information in a free version. Artificial intelligence software.
Hello, everyone. My name is Priscilla, and I am a fashion designer. And for me, I just want to contribute to what she said. For me, as an entrepreneur, one thing I find really challenging is the marketing aspect of it. I do good work, right? But to put it out there was like a big challenge for me. I don't know how to take the good photography, marketing and stuff, but recently I was part of a training and they actually gave us a lot of resources. And one of the marketing tools I really find amazing was artcreative.ai. This allows you to do like multiple things. Like she said, what she was using can't allow you to put your products in it, but this one actually allows you to put your products and does good stuff, basically. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Hello, my name is Meryl. I ghostwrite for a couple of companies and I use AI a lot. However, I would really like to say that AI is a great tool, but it should stay a tool. Behind there is humans, and it should be human-powered first, especially when you start your company. You need to build a tone, you need to build like a personality to your brand. So I love AI. I use it for every single client. I use the paid version of ChatGPT, so it allows you to create like files and then put documents. And so it helps a lot with the like, I don't know, like charm and personality of the brand. A tool that I used recently for those clients is Napkin AI. If you're in the consulting business, if you like graphics and things like that, it's very helpful. You put your text, you select, and then it creates nice little visuals. Yeah, apart from that, I'm a big fan of GPT, honestly, but yeah, it should be human-powered, I believe.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Claudette. So a little bit about my background. I have a computer science degree. I got my degree in 1992 in coding. So I've been one of the first Black women in coding in Canada for a very long time. I'm telling you this, thank you for the hand clap, but not for the hand clap. So you have, when I'm saying next, comes with some authority. The other thing that I do is I run a software company where I help solopreneurs actually use AI automation to automate their businesses. I've been requested to do this. I actually did not want to do this for the longest time, but most of my small businesses and my mid-sized businesses and large businesses as well. So I've worked with Amazon, LinkedIn, Google, Microsoft, like I've worked with all these companies. So what I want to tell you to do, I was thinking about what to advise, and I'm going to say this. AI, if you don't use it, you are going to be left behind, period. I don't care what you are doing, what you are building, you will be left behind. You will be fodder. And the reason why I say that is, as much as there is fear, how many of you have phones? Put your hand up. So if you've got Apple and you say, hey Siri, it's listening. If you've got an Android, it's listening to you. So as much as you think your data is secure, the minute you get on the phone and talk to anybody about anything, Google Cloud or Apple has your business plan already on their systems, already training everything. So as much as you think AI is going to steal your plans, you open up your mouth in your house and talk to any smart application. Your TV, your fridge, you have a smart thermostat, you've got a smart garage opener. All of that stuff is listening to you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So your data's never, ever, ever, ever safe. So do not be afraid to use the tool, because I promise you, especially as women, we've already got problems getting stuff in our hand. And the tool that every other company is accelerating to use, men are going to use this. You can sit there and not use it if you choose to, but I'm telling you, somebody who has the same business idea as you is going to use it and accelerate. Number one. So please use it. As much as it's scary, it gets better with time. The version that you see now is the worst possible version. It's going to get better. Protecting your information, you will always come up with new ideas. If the idea you started off with 5 years from now is the same idea you have, your name is, was it Blockbuster? And when's the last time you saw them? Okay, so you have to always iterate. The last thing I want to say is, whenever you're going to get a tool, the suggestion that you made about AI, the problem is everybody's producing AI and the quality sucks. So you're going to create a prompt in all the areas that you want. One standard, very detailed prompt. Who, what, where, when, why. You're going to go to an expert in whatever area it is and get the answer that you need. So if it's accounting, go to your accountant and say, I want this scenario, then put it in any of the chats that you want, whether it's Claude, ChatGPT, there's Webs, there's DeepSeek. I don't care which one you put it in. Then you're going to put that prompt in, get the answer from your expert. If it doesn't give you all the key highlights, do not use that software. And that's the easiest way for you to quickly validate from external people when you don't have the level of expertise. Once a quarter or once a month, find an expert who knows the thing. Go on LinkedIn, folks. Find somebody. Do you have 5 minutes to help me with a particular prompt? What's the answer for this thing going to be? So you got a family member, 6 degrees of separation. Somebody in your family knows the answer who's an expert. Get that response, plug it into the different chats. Whichever one gets you the closest response, follow through on that response and use it. consistently. And then I said every quarter or every month, depending upon how quickly your business is iterating, go to an expert, get them to give you an answer, put it in all the stuff, and whatever gets you the closest, it's a good starting point. The last thing is this, pay for the expertise. When you have the dollars, pay for the expertise. So I've been working with 7-figure, 8-figure CEOs for a very long time. The reason why they get to 7 and 8-figure is every single time they make a dollar, it goes back into their organization to get the expertise. When you have no money, start cheap. Once you start making money, put the money back in your business. So pay for the expertise. There's something that comes with wisdom and time. It's literally wisdom and time. And they will tell you how to get to where you need to go. So if you want to exponentially increase your time, the AI things are tools. Pay for the expertise of somebody who can give you the correct answers that you need. So if they are charging you $25,000, well, that $25,000 is 30 years of knowing how to make your SEO get to the top of the Google search so your clients can follow you. So they immediately, within 1 month, 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 10x your investment. You're not going to get money anywhere else, so you have to get it through yourself. So the faster people can see you, know you, and bankroll you, the better it is.
We have time for one more question or comment. I'm wondering who's got their hands up? Way over there. 2 more. We'll do 2 more. Just try to be brief, or I'll get fired.
Yes, well, hello everyone. My name is Daniela, and I just, I kind of like thinking about one of the last panels that we had when talking about grant applications and the information that you need. Perplexity AI is a tool that will give you the sources where the information is coming from. So whenever you need to validate your data, it's important to have like those like sources, right? Like the origin of all their information. So for grant application, it's great. So it's Perplexity AI, if you get. Yeah.
Thanks.
My name is Lila, and I'm an e-commerce business owner, and I was literally going to talk about Perplexity because that's the second AI tool that I use next to ChatGPT, and it's been great for me because once you put a prompt and it gives you the results, like she said, you get to see the source of the results so you can dive a bit more. But it also gives you follow-up questions. So it's been really helping me when I do product description of my products on my store to kind of see what other questions would my customer ask about this product? What else should I be thinking about so that I can put it all for my products and they can have all the information that they need. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thanks for raising that, because that's also something in terms of best practice with ChatGPT is ask it to provide a list of sources that it used. So that was great. So lots of people in the room have started on this journey. I wonder if there are any last comments that you have, either for people who are beginning the journey or people who should be jumping in.
Well, I want to touch about something that the lady mentioned. Sorry, I don't have your name, but you mentioned that we should start trying, right? Trial and error, understanding how it works. In innovation, there is a concept that I don't remember the actual theories, but they said that organizations that are capable to learn faster are capable to innovate the most. So I really think that even my small organization or any organization needs to be on top of scaling their skills. And a skill is how to interact with machine learning, with generative applications, because that's the way in which we are going to, right? So I think that not being afraid, it's important, because fear, it only deters you from actioning. So, and it's really not a good business partner. So.
Yeah. Yes, I just have one more thing to add. I think that, like it's been said around, you don't have to be afraid for using AI, because if you don't, we'll leave you behind and move forward. So this is something that you have to learn, but you have to use it properly and wisely based on the information that you've gotten from here. You know that even with ChatGPT, you have to ask for the sources to understand where the sources are coming from and all that. but you have to actually get involved, research more, make sure that you are getting the right tools. And you can always talk to the experts, whether the data that you have makes sense. And that's all. And then the more you use it, the more you become better. And then the more you become more comfortable in using it. It's like any other technology. So that's something that I would urge everyone to do. And one of the last things I would like to say is that for small businesses, startups, what you need to do is to always look at pilot projects. You don't just jump into full blown. You just pilot something, ensure that it's working for you before you scale up. So that's all I have. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much. And just one final point. Canada won a Nobel Prize for its research on AI. And yet we are a laggard in the adoption of AI. We're way, way, way behind other countries. And as we think about our national strategy, as we think about how we're going to be competitive globally and cut ties with our partners in the South, really focusing on the adoption of technology is where we have to go. So thanks all of you for sharing your experiences, and you're all entrepreneurs. So this is just another piece of the puzzle. Thank you very much.
Another round of applause, guys. So thank you to our speaker and panelists. Don't get tired yet, guys. Don't worry, we're almost there, okay? So we've talked about funding, we've talked about tech, and now we're getting into something that really truly makes or breaks success: relationships. I'm sure you guys have heard the quote before, your network is your net worth. So whether you're building a business, growing in your career, or stepping into leadership, the ability to connect, collaborate, and create opportunities with others is everything. That's why this next conversation is so important. We're diving into how to manage relationships, build bridges across industries, and create spaces that are not just inclusive, but intentionally empowering. So leading this powerhouse conversation is a woman who knows a thing or two, I'd like to say so, about building impact-driven relationships. Our moderator, Dr. Olutoyin Oyelade, President and CEO of Casa Foundation. And joining her are some other incredibly women, but I'll leave it to her to introduce them.
Thank you again. Thank you, Ife. I appreciate that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, because I know we do have some gentlemen in the room, so I need to keep saying that. So this is actually the Fireside and Keynote session. So I'm going to give the floor actually to Professor Julia Christensen Hughes to start with the keynote part of it, and I'm going to read it. I'm not just going to bring you up simply like that. So I need to read a bit. You need to get to know her. Professor Julia Christensen Hughes is the president and the vice-chancellor of Yorkville University, Toronto. A round of applause, please. We had to look for her. The reason we had to do that is because, like I was chatting with her, so I had to say this. We searched. We wanted one of the vice-chancellors of a leading university, but they all appear to be male, men. And so we said to ourselves, this is International Women's Day. Yeah, all right, we're going to have one or two professors speak to us, but for the keynote session itself, it's got to be a lady. And so we were looking and searching until, we found her. And so here she is with us today. Thank you. All right. Dr. Julia Christensen Hughes is a globally recognized innovator. She's passionate about the transformational power of post-secondary education to change lives and improve society. As president and vice-chancellor of one of Canada's largest private universities, she has led the creation of Yorkville Signature Learning Outcomes as a university-wide commitment to develop the next generation of ethical, highly skilled, and socially conscious business leaders. Ladies and gentlemen, again, with a warm welcome, let's bring Professor Julia to the stage. Thank you.
Yeah, it is an absolute pleasure to be with all of you here today. When I received the invitation, I said yes within about 3 seconds because I was feeling the need to connect with all of you in a room like this today, to take time out of my busy job, I know we're all doing that today, to connect with other women who are challenging, who are trying to transform. We heard earlier about working 24/7 and to achieve the things that we're so passionate about. But how important is it to come together and to be inspired and rejuvenated? So I'm absolutely honored to be with you here today. Prior to joining Yorkville 4 years ago, I spent over 30 years at the University of Guelph, where I was founding dean of the Lang School of Business and Economics. And a fun fact, really, as an entrepreneurial dean, I raised over $30 million to support the Lang School. And it was the, thank you. And it was the Lang family who, or CCL, which is the Gordon Lang, founded CCL, bought Julie's company. And so it's Julie and Julia connecting earlier today, sharing what incredible business leaders the Lang family were in creating an ethical global business. So proud of that connection. So as someone who has dedicated her life to higher education, I thought we needed to start today with a bit of a history lesson, and because it's International Women's Day. So in 1867, at the time of Confederation, there were 17 degree-granting institutions in Canada, 17. What percentage of those students do you think were women? None. None. The first woman, I love first, so thank you for sharing your first. It's powerful, right? What is it that inspires a woman dares to dream to be a first? Well, Gracie Ann Lockhart was the first woman to receive a bachelor's degree in science and English literature from Mount Allison in New Brunswick, 1875. At that time, at Queen's University, someone did an editorial in the Queen's Journal and wrote, "We are confident that among people who appreciate the delicate grace and beauty of woman's character too much to expose it to the rude influences, the bitterness and strife of the world, few will be found to advocate for admission to universities." I think as we reflect on the challenges each one of us faces today, it's important to have that historical perspective. Women were admitted to medical studies at Queen's as early as 1880, but were forced out by their disgruntled male peers, and it was not until 1943 that women were readmitted. That is, to me, remarkable. Now, we're going to fast forward a bit. I was born in 1959, so this next bit of history applies to me directly. In 1960, all women in Canada were finally granted the right to vote in federal elections. Until then, First Nations women could not vote unless they had lost or given up their treaty rights in Indian status. In 1971, amendments were made to the Canadian Labour Code to include the prohibition of discrimination on the grounds of sex and marital status. Up until that time, if you married, you could be fired from your job. In 1977, so now I'm a teenager, the Canadian Human Rights Act was passed, forbidding discrimination on the basis of sex and ensuring equal pay for work of equal value. When I was in high school, I worked for Canadian Tire, pumping gas and checking for oil. And my male colleagues were making more than I was, simply because of our sex. In 1981, when I got married, women's rights, ensuring equality before and under the law, was finally enshrined in the new Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. I'm going to fast forward a lot now. 1993, Jean Augustine became the first Black Canadian woman elected to the House of Commons. So this history is recent. It's very recent. So when I look back on my life, I've experienced so many different changes that have impacted my conception of myself, my opportunities, and how I might aspire to make a positive impact in the world. So it was in 1911 that International Women's Day first took place. It was supported by Austria, Denmark, Germany, and Switzerland. And over 1 million women gathered to think about their role and the impact their lives might have. It wasn't until 1975 that the United Nations recognized International Women's Year and dedicated a day in March to reminding us all of the progress that has been made and what is yet to come. The Government of Canada's theme for this year is Strength in Every Story, and we heard that from that remarkable first panel talking about Have a Powerful Story. So the Government of Canada has written, every woman's story is a testament to resilience. We heard about grit, determination, and the power of opportunity. And we have been asked that this International Women's Day celebrate the women and girls in your life and share their stories. So with that in mind, I thought I might tell you a little bit about my story. I've had a remarkably privileged life, but I've also had really significant challenges. Like many in the room, my parents were immigrants to Canada. I was born here, so first generation. My father was an engineer and my mother was a nurse. And when they came to Canada, they struggled to achieve the life they had dreamed of. So they both went back to work. My father was working as an engineer, but was bumping up against a ceiling of progression. My mother worked as a meter maid, counting pennies and nickels in the meters in Hamilton, Ontario. So back to school they went. So as I was growing up, my father first did a BBA in economics and then an MBA, and my mother studied social work. So I had the pleasure of growing up in a professional household, but where university education was everything, where it was understood to be opportunity. I didn't know exactly what it was, but I knew I must do that as well. But I struggled with my choices. Given, again, those dates that I've shared of changing norms within society, I do believe that representation matters. And I had not seen a lot of women in powerful positions or with an understanding of what I might aspire to, as well as experiencing pay discrimination. In my final year of high school, they decided that women perhaps should be allowed to play soccer. And I was keen to do that. And they called us the Powder Puff soccer team. It sends a message, right? It sends a message about how you're seen and the kinds of dreams you might dare to dream. Ultimately, I decided I wanted to study business. But not seeing many women business leaders, I decided to take a program in hospitality and tourism. For some reason in my brain, I thought, well, women understand food and they understand making bets, so maybe that's an industry that would have a role for me. When I graduated, I joined keg restaurants as a manager. And I can tell you back then, in 1981, there were not many women managers, and there were still highly gendered roles. The men were the waiters, and the women were the cocktail waitresses. I got married, had 2 children, and after a few years of the keg, decided it was time to get back to school. So I started an MBA about a month after my first son was born. And I can tell you that classroom was full of men, many who'd studied engineering, and there I was with a babe in arms. About halfway through that MBA, I realized I had to say goodbye to my husband and branched out on my own. So a single mom, 2 little children, studying my MBA. And I remember when I made the decision to leave my husband and trying to find housing and was told, we don't rent to women like you. It was a shock. But again, I did have privilege. My parents supported me. I don't know what I would have done if they hadn't. But I recall the very first day of my MBA. I thought, I am home and I'm never leaving university again. Whereas I had been so appreciative of my experience at the KEG and the freedoms they gave me as a manager of a restaurant, I learned so much about running a business. I was still challenged by the lack of opportunity to question. I saw a lot of things that I felt were the dysfunction of business, the dark side of business. The KEG was making all kinds of monies. In every traditional scorecard, you might have a business, but I actually saw it was having a really negative impact on the employees who worked there, and in truth, some of the customers as well. So I wanted to study the dark side of business. So that's what I did in my MBA and then my PhD. And I was very fortunate that the University of Guelph brought me back as a young professor in 1987. So I'd spent my PhD studying what is the vision of an organization and what is its culture and what are its values, because those were the questions that were on my mind from my own personal experience. And I thought so many organizations espouse a powerful vision, but to what extent are they really living it? And have they aligned the hearts and minds as well as the hands of people in support of that? And I'll never forget, I was walking across campus one day and I said, wait a minute, the university is an organization too. And I hear all that it espouses about how much students count and how powerfully we can impact society by supporting the learning of those students. And I said, wait a minute. The research is pretty clear. Not a lot of learning happens in a lecture. A lecture can play a role, but what are we doing? And how many of my peers, am I convinced, actually care about their students and are doing all they can to facilitate their learning? So here I am, an untenured professor with this moment, and decided I have to change this. So I actually set about changing it. And before I knew it, and this is one thing I've learned, if there's something you don't think is right, I learned this from my mother, be a change maker, work to change it. And so I did. I set off on a journey. So I was very entrepreneurial as a young professor. And I soon became head of the University of Guelph's Teaching and Learning Center, teaching faculty how to teach, rethinking the curriculum, what is the pedagogy that drives learning that lasts. And another thing I've learned is whatever amazing idea you have, there's already people who have had it. And I say, find out who they are and go and hang out with them. So I heard there was a national society called the Society for Teaching and Learning in Higher Education, where the few faculty from each Canadian university that actually cared about their students, cared about how effectively they were teaching, would meet every year. So I went to that conference and I was so happy and I thought I have found my people. And they were looking for people to serve on the board. So here's the third one, put your hand up, right? If you find your people and if your values aligned, join them and participate. And so within a year or two, I found myself as president of a national organization working to reform higher education. So I was thrilled to have that opportunity. I was so passionate about everything we were working on together, changed how that organization was funded, shamed every Canadian university to buy an institutional membership. So we had a budget, so we had money. And that's what we heard at the first panel, right? You need funds to move your dreams forward, so find the way to raise it. I worked in that space for about 10 years, and then Guelph said, okay, you're having too much fun throwing stones at the tent, time to step back in. We're forming a business school. So I became chair, and then I became founding dean of the Lang School of Business. We heard earlier today about understanding your business plan, understanding your competitive space. So here is Guelph, totally surrounded. Schulich, Rotman, Ivy, DeGroote, Lazaridis, right? Within an hour's drive, competing for students and faculty. I knew we had to have a compelling differentiation. And this was in 2009, so long before people started talking about sustainability. But I was thinking back to my KEG days and thinking, I want an opportunity for students who have values, who inspire to join businesses that are taking a long-term perspective, that care about employees, that care about community, that want to create products and services that the world truly needs. And so we developed a vision. It was after a year of focus groups and doing all of that visioning that we aspired to be and develop leaders for a sustainable world. And so once again, with that vision, I looked around the world, who's already doing this? And under the auspices of the United Nations was a group called PRIME, Principles for Responsible Management Education. And so I joined them, and that led to me addressing the United Nations General Assembly in New York City on the need to produce business graduates who were going to make a positive impact in the world. That was an incredible time, and again, supported by the Langs and also the Wood family, the appliance manufacturers, that helped me support an entrepreneurship center that would be a place where students from across the university could go with great ideas and get support to launch their businesses. I was exhausted after the end of my run as dean, and I was on leave and I was writing some books. And another area I talk about is academic integrity. So I was very intrigued by the ChatGPT discussion and all the disruption coming to higher education through that. But then Yorkville called me. I actually thought I was kind of done in terms of leadership roles, but Yorkville called. I'd never heard of them. Canada's largest private university, run entirely different, an entirely different business model. You probably read all the headlines, all the universities, 40, 50, $60 million annual deficit. Yorkville is profitable, and we reinvest those profits back in opportunities. Over 70% of our students are domestic Canadians. Over 80%, 84% in our graduate program are female. They come from every province and territory in Canada. They do not have to leave their homes. They do not have to leave their communities. They do not have to leave their support networks. They learn while they're working full-time, which helps make their higher education journey affordable. Our largest program is a Master's of Arts in Counseling Psychology, but we have other popular programs in education and leadership, and of course, business. In the kind introduction, it was mentioned we've developed signature learning outcomes, and I'm so proud of these because I believe higher education needs to go through a massive disruption. No longer will students be prepared to sit in large lecture theaters and wait 4 or 5 years to perhaps apply what they're learning, if it even remains relevant. We need a different model where people are working as they're learning and have that opportunity for application. But our signature learning outcomes, for example, include digital literacy. This is a commitment to our students that they will be taught in small classes and mentored in the development of those skills that will help them to future-proof their careers. I'm joined here today with Tanisha Syed, one of the students at Yorkville in our project management, our BBA in project management. It's the only one in the country, and we have students aspiring to join all kinds of industries from that program. We also own Toronto Film School. I don't know if any of you have heard of Toronto Film School. It's in Toronto, not too far away. The president of TFS is Andrew Barnsley, who produced Schitt's Creek and Son of a Critch. And I'm very proud that within that program, we have, in partnership with RBC, amazing scholarships for BIPOC students, recognizing that film can be a powerful way to also tell stories that matter and that will have impact. Okay, I think I've gone on enough. I'm probably out of time. But what I want to end with is a reflection. I've had privilege, I've had challenge. What I've had more than anything is an inspired sense of the impact I want my life to have. And I think if each one of us can be purpose-driven, we will find the path forward. And as I stand before you today, like I'm amazed at the career that I've had. I have 4 granddaughters. 2 are 8, 2 are 10, and thank you. And I'm just so hopeful when I look out at a room like this and see all of you inspired in your own journeys and the positive impact that you want to make in the world, that my granddaughters perhaps will have an easier time than I did, but I'm not sure. Anyway, thank you very much.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you, Julia, for those insightful, very inspiring. Again, a warm applause for Julia. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing. Thank you. It's really important for us women to share our stories from our hearts. You know what I mean? So I'm sure she delved into a few private parts there, her story. And we learn, the reason we continue to do this is so we can learn from the stories of people around us. Because when we learn from their stories, then we understand that, we're not really an island. We're not on our own. Nobody should be, really. There should be a support system. You can connect with them and things get better the more we connect with people. I like to talk a bit. All right. So right now is the fireside session. And as we go into this fireside session, my guests, Julia is one of our guests. And then we have MPP Andrea Hazell, the member of Provincial Parliament for Scarborough. Thank you again for coming. Please join us. Join us so we learn more from these stories. Today, I have Gina here. I haven't seen you in a while. Gina Bendania. She's the head of priority initiatives of the Office of the Premier of Ontario, the Government of Ontario. Please come up. Thank you, Gina. Thank you. Please sit down. And we have Koinsola Olorode, Senior Manager, Process Improvement at Griffith Foods. Thank you again for representing the private sector. Ladies in the room this afternoon, this is the group we put together at the Fireside for you. We really wanted to speak to people from the government, private, and the academia, different sectors, the organized private sector, because it's important that we balance it. So we hear their stories, we talk about some of the challenges we've been through and so on. And then they can also share their stories about how they surmounted a lot of issues. And so this is really important. And we would really love for you to participate. We have our CEO table. We have people in the room that have come from different communities, different sectors, and I really want us to be a part of this. So we'll keep the discussion short so that we can take at least a few questions, maybe one from the organized private sector. Again, like I said, some of the CEOs, they've been through a lot of challenges, and they perhaps want to know, they're looking forward to understanding how you navigate some of these challenges. How did people do that? How did they find themselves here? And so on. We also have a few people shadowing, looking out for mentors within this community this afternoon. This is an opportunity for you to prepare your questions as we go on with it. All right. So thank you again for joining us. Very good to see you and for you to join us here. I do have a few stories of mine, but I'm going to talk about that as we go along. I think this afternoon we're going to get started having you introduce yourselves, what you have done, and I'm going to start with myself. A quick story. WomenInspire, this particular forum by Casa Foundation, launched on the 5th of March, 2020, just before the entire system shut down, due to the pandemic. So the announcement was made that I think around the 10th or the 12th of March, but we launched it here. By the Toronto Board of Trade. I think it was on Adelaide Street also then, but the same organization, the same room, kind of. And I do recall we were full of passion. We really wanted to engage with a community of women and young, entrepreneurs. A lot of people were in the room looking for mentors, connecting with us because they believed they had role models, or they were looking to find role models that would train them, that would help them navigate through some of the challenges they were faced with at that time. A lot of people came from the workplace also, understanding that they were looking for their next promotion, and they wanted to understand how to navigate those issues of the various intersectionalities that you find in each of those rooms as you're trying. And some of the questions were around, I love to have this type of person mentor me because I've read their story. Isn't that, I mean, it's of course, it's the right to do so, but they refuse to mentor me. And then people were also asking them, are you mentorable? So we were having like a back and forth. So how do we bring people together, make sure they connect in the long term, not just for 1 month and 2 months? And so those were some of the issues. And I share that story that when I came in, it was actually LinkedIn, when you talk about social media, digital connections, and so on. And so as an investment banker of about 17 years, and I'd risen to vice president position where I was coming from. So it was a logical progression for me to gravitate towards bankers because that's my background. But then I found that you need to speak the language for them to understand exactly what your needs are. And if you don't speak that language, you think you know a bit, and then they come in different, they're diverse, different people, diverse people. And those are the people I wrote. And I never write 1 or 2 people if I'm looking for anything, just to say. I write 6, I write 7, so that at least 2 will respond to me, and then I won't be left in the cold. So that was the approach. And as we go along today, I'm sure that we will be able to tell some of those stories because it will appear to be some of the stories. The first, that lunch was where I really didn't meet Gina, but she was one of the first speakers at that lunch. But then she was representing another group. And then suddenly she reached out to me after 5 years, sometime last year, and said, do you know, Dr. Olu, I spoke at in 2020, and so on. Now I'm in the office of the Premier. This is the work I'm doing. We need to meet. And that was it. And since then, we've met almost every month since that last year. It's how to build connections. It's how to navigate the journey, wanting to know how things work. And the same goes for a lot of people in the room. Wendy, who also came in 2018 for the first one and said, look, I really need to see how you're doing some of the things you're doing at another program, Friends of Africa, until they started supporting us by sponsorship. You don't know who is in the room. That's the essence of that story. You don't know who can support your initiative. You don't know who is going to recommend you to the next person. Today, TMU and Casa Foundation and BBPA, we manage a group called Rise Up Women, a pitch of $10,000 each, having awarded about $400,000 as we speak today. The next one is happening sometime this month. And that's because she met us. She came to the community. She saw what we were doing and said, Olu, you've been doing these speeches, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. I keep telling that story, Wendy. But I think you can do 10,000. I think you should take it national and stop doing it in Toronto alone. And that was it. We built the structure. We looked for the people to support it and so on. So that's the story for me. Because of the brevity of time, I got to stop there. But it just gives you a sense of what's possible when you sit with people and you have allies around you. Allyship matters. And so that's where we're going to start. Gina, we'll give you brief. Please introduce yourself. And then I'm going to skip Prof and then go on to MPP, Andrea, and then to Coin. Please go on.
Thank you so much. And let's give a round of applause to Dr. Olu. Amazing for having us here today. This is incredible. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Right.
So I started my career in politics about a decade ago. As an executive assistant. Someone gave me a shot. I actually started off by volunteering first, and then someone gave me a shot to go in and be an executive assistant. And I currently serve as the Premier's head of priority initiative. I've held roles as chief of staff to the Treasury Board president in Ontario, and director of stakeholders to both the Premier and the Minister of Small Business. So I think we're going to have an amazing discussion today, and I'm already feeling quite inspired. I'm sure everyone is here as well. Thank you for that keynote speech. That was really incredible.
Thank you. All right. Thank you again. Thank you, Gina. Can we have you do the same?
So again, Andrea Hazell, MPP for Scarborough-Guildwood.
Yes.
But before that, I also had a life in the... I also had a life in the financial corporate world. I'm not going to tell you how many years, but it's like over 25 years without giving away my age. So that was in the corporate world, private sector. I do have a lot of experience in the non-for-profit space. And as a small business owner myself, And so I have that experience as well. And then now I am in politics. So it's a very long journey that I am very proud of. I've learned a lot, failed a lot, get up a lot, look at challenges in the face, cry sometimes, but laugh a lot of times. And so I'm here today to inspire, impact, and influence you.
Thank you. Coin, yes.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Okay, my name is Christensen Olutoyin, and I'll just tell you a quick story about myself. In 2019, I migrated with my husband and my then 2-year-old son in a new terrain where I had no community, no friends. It was so lonely. I didn't have any support system. I had zero credibility. I was coming from somewhere where I was very credible, well known, then navigating a new terrain, so zero credibility. Then fast forward to 2021, I knew I needed a mentor, right? I reached out to multiple women, just like Dr. Oyelade talked about. No one wanted to mentor me. And I was like, oh my goodness. Fast forward again to 2024, I decided to start mentoring women because I believe that women need that support system. And that was how I started a company where I consult and coach. So today I'll be providing my perspective as an individual, as an employee, and as an entrepreneur. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, so let's dig into that. One of the major challenges, that women appear to be faced with, as a matter of fact, evidence-based research will also tell us that it's a challenge of access to capital, access to mentorship, access to community. The access to community is there, but the impact of the community is lost because they're not able to leverage the opportunities. Keep in mind, again, we're talking about leveraging relationships and building bridges. So women have the community, several community groups. Sometimes we say it's a gist partner. We all need all of this, right? We go to spa, tea parties together. However, when it comes to really building profitable businesses, it's lacking on one hand, maybe due to the challenges that we've been faced with on access to capital, access to all of these other things that we talked about. But a lot of people believe also that some of the challenges stem from the fact that, women are kind of put aside. They don't believe that we are able to do a lack of capacity or an incapacity to achieve a lot with the money being given. And so that's why the statistics keeps showing exactly the way, reflecting that, the gap and so on. So the question then becomes, what can women do to build these relationships and build a bridge across some of the relationships? Because the relationships are available, family, friends, this and that, but they are not lasting, they are not sustainable, or they are not dovetailing into revenue, profit for our businesses. So I think the first question will go to you, Prof. Professor Julia, and say, I'm going to ask you that question and say, what are your thoughts on this? And then we'll take it round and come back to you. Second round, back to you, Gina.
Okay, I think it's a very, very interesting question, particularly today, given how incredibly overloaded everyone is. I think of my own life. I mentioned I have 4 granddaughters. I have a ailing father who's 95. I have a very demanding job. So if someone came up to me after this session and said, would you mentor me? I'd have to say, I'm sorry, no, right? I am tapped out. But I think there's a stealth way to become mentored. And that is to show up at events like this. Don't sit at the back. Sit as close to the front as you can and ask a question and introduce yourself, right? You will be noticed. And then the follow-up isn't a cold call, right? It's you've been part of a discussion or you volunteer to be part of a committee, like I explained in my story. I was mentored by people who didn't know they were mentoring me, but I sat at the table with them. I heard their perspectives. I learned. I sat about to learn. What can I learn from all these people that are 3 years, 5 years further along the journey than I am? So I just think today everyone is so tapped out, right? Everyone is exhausted. So how do you get those learnings in maybe it's sort of that unconventional way?
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you very much. The same question. Andrea, do you want to take that? Thank you.
Very good question. Very, very good question. I can hear myself now. So in my corporate life, I was so stagnant, okay? I had done everything that my senior VPs has asked me to do. And I still couldn't get to where I needed to be. In that one corporation, oh my God, I think I know all the VPs, the senior VPs, the directors, because it was like you networking within that corporation. That's what they will tell you first. When I applied for a position that is higher than the level at where I'm at, I was told, you need that tool, you need that tool, you know? So it was, do you guys know something called lateral movement? Throw that crap out of your vocabulary. Because it's there to keep us at one level, and it's there to keep us down. It was also a systemic barriers. We cannot hide from that. And so my years was networking inside of the company, getting as high as you can, keep plowing, and keep working. In December of 2019, I said, hold up. I am mentoring so many women. I have my women's foundation. It's called WomenInspire National Women's Foundation, where I teach young girls and women that you can become what you can see because of my financial background. I've got, let me tell you the real years, 30 years in the financial field of business. So what I did, I stopped networking within that corporation. I started networking outside. I started to networking outside, and that's what I want to leave you with this question. You have to work in the networking field and industry all over because you don't know where your next opportunity is coming from. Now I'm a politician.
All right, Cohen, yeah.
So I'm going to answer this question with 3 fundamentals. Number 1 is, when I think about relationship building, it's around value creation. It's around what value can I give the next person. Most times, a lot of us, my second point would be move beyond transactional to long-term partnerships. A lot of people just want to say, oh, can I get this? Can I get that? Or they only pick up the phone when they need you. We need to transcend from that to really building meaningful connections. And the third thing I would like to say is, Andrea mentioned earlier in these conversations around building your networks. You know, thank you for that. This is the first time I actually heard concrete ceiling. I've always heard glass ceiling and all of that. But in building your networks, you have 7 critical roles you want to have. I call it the 4 C's and LMS. You want to have cheerleaders. You want people to encourage you on that journey. You want to have coaches that will ask powerful, thought-provoking questions that would unlock potential in you. You also want to have challengers. You want to have people that will challenge you to move beyond mediocrity and all of that. Then you want to have close friends that you can pray with, you can share with. You also want to have mentors. Very, very important. You want to have loving critics, people that will give you feedback for you to improve. And the last one I will say is you want to have sponsors, people that will speak on your behalf. So when you're creating your networks, think about these 7 roles as you do that.
Thank you. Thank you, Cohen. Gina and Julia, can I ask again then, do you think it is the role of leadership, for instance, you know, because inclusivity, that's what we're talking about now. Does leadership have a role to kind of foster an environment that is inclusive? And how can that happen? Gina and then Julia.
Yeah, I think absolutely leadership can play an integral role in having that culture that builds of inclusivity. And sometimes we're fortunate to be under the leadership of really inspiring people that create that culture. And then other times we're not. And unfortunately, that's the reality of things. And so how can you empower yourself to perhaps you have to stay in that position under a leader that perhaps isn't providing those values that you see in yourself. So how can you be intentional about growing your network into different areas where you can start seeking out that type of culture that you gravitate towards. So being super, I think I like to measure everything. So I'm a big Excel girl. So putting things down in a spreadsheet when we're talking about networking and we're being intentional about building out that list, it's a numbers game at the end of the day. If you reach out to 20 people and one good person gets back to you that you can start building a relationship with, that's incredible. And then you can start kind of measuring yourself over time of how you're progressing in that. I think, and as well, capacity is such a challenging thing. And being a mentor to someone is a huge commitment. So maybe make a micro ask instead. Hey, can we just grab coffee? Can we do a quick Zoom chat? I just wanted to get to know you. I've heard a lot, and then making sure you're staying true to yourself. So your reputation is going to follow you through the different leaders that you have. And so how can you, make sure to be absolutely kind and hold those core values to everyone, not just those we just mentioned not being transactional. So is there someone in your network that comes to mind that can be a customer to someone you just met? Maybe make that introduction. Hey, I met this person. It might be a good person for you to intro to. So and at the end of the day, it's a numbers game. I would not waste my time if I find that I have someone who's not giving me that alignment of values or just move on.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, Julia.
I have to confess, I'm sitting here feeling very old. That everything is changing. No, you have no idea. Like, I get pinged on LinkedIn all the time. Okay, fine, join me. And then then there's that ask, like, do you just have 10 minutes? No, I'm sorry, I don't. Oh dear. Okay, I think what I want to talk a little bit about is values then. And because as a president and vice chancellor of a university, and what I didn't share is that we operate as a university in British Columbia and Ontario and New Brunswick. So we have a very distributed employee group. And in fact, supporting some of our programs, we have faculty from all over North America. And we can draw from that kind of a pool because our learning is largely online asynchronous. So it's a different model. But as a president, I have to think, how do I help people connect, right? And feel the values of the university and be inspired to make a difference for our students. So a couple of years back, we went through, I'm so proud of this process of values process. We involved everyone in the organization about what kind of values do we have that you value the most and where do we have work to do. And so through a very iterative, inclusive process, we came up with our 4 values. And one absolutely is inclusivity and respect. And I loved what you said about kindness. I say all the time, a business can get through at anything if you are clear and you are kind. I always say we need to be brave enough to always have the truth in the middle of the table and trust that thoughtful people will bring the best of themselves to bear in solving for that. And for that to work, you need diversity of perspective. You need diversity of lived experience. And so I do this thing called Tuesdays with Julia once a month, and we connect everybody online from across the organization. And it's like David Letterman show. We use his same visuals. We have a mailbag that opens, and people can ask me anything. And it's the idea is to try to help people connect in an online environment. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Julia. I'm going to take this question. We'll go around this question and then open the floor for questions. It's generally, it's a male-dominated environment, well, whether we like it or not. But the issue then is there's that perspective of, okay, but aren't women also, I don't want to use anything negative, but, some people say, oh, maybe their own worst enemies at work, or in the marketplace. I mean, of course, I'm sure men do the same anyway, but that's generally said, so it's there. But, there's that issue of what you call the tall poppy syndrome. I don't know how many people know about that. But where women are very successful, and those ones that are most successful are the ones that are demeaned also. So it's like the tall poppy, that poppy, so you're trying to cut it off and so on. How do you navigate that? Because I'm sure each one of us, we've experienced that at one point or the other, whether in business, in career, in the workplace. What are your suggestions in that regard to the women in the room today? How do you manage that? I'll start with you, Gina, and then we'll take it.
Yeah, I've unfortunately been been faced with some of these circumstances of other people trying to cut others down. For me, I think I find that when I manifest and when I focus on something, it's typically what I gravitate towards. So there has been a lot of nights crying into a pillow, let me tell you. But at the end of the day, I think that's okay. Resilience is an absolute key element of being successful in any area of life. I can relate. My mom was a single mom, and we were privileged that we had a home, but in order to keep that home, she needed to figure out a way. This is before YouTube, to redo our whole basement so she could rent it out and figure out how you can do it, right? And so that resilience is key. I think ultimately, when you cut down the ego, you cut down the insecurity, your essence is incredible. And so when you own that essence of who you are, and you know that to be true, and you show up with that, magic happens. And so when you can focus on those that are cutting you down and try to seek out revenge for those, and I don't know if it's the right thing to do or the wrong thing to do, but I've chosen not to seek out revenge. And look, at some points in time, you can get taken advantage of if someone thinks they can knock you down and you're not going to snap back and take that. But for me, it's been empowering to watch as karma takes care of those people. And I continue just trying to look for the positive in the situation and own that and keep putting one foot in front of the other and surrounding yourself with people that empower you to do that.
Yeah, thank you, Jenna.
Awesome. Oh my goodness. A couple of things. I think back to when I was first appointed dean and found myself in the boardroom of the university, that this room, everyone had such reverence for, if you were allowed in there or not. And I remember feeling not just a bit, a lot of imposter syndrome at times when I would go in there to be part of these conversations. But whenever I found myself feeling that way, I would look around the table and think, but I know more than he does, and I know more than he does, and I think my ideas are better than his. So I would play that little game, so to kind of keep that imposter syndrome in bay. It wasn't so much about, the title dean, but it was who are my peers, and do I deserve to be here? And then I became vice chair of the Canadian Federation of Business School Deans, and with 60 universities with business schools across the country, there was a handful of us women. But again, not being shy. So when there was a role to become vice chair, I put my hand up. So I've always sort of dared to jump in. But at Yorkville, of our senior leadership team, there's only one male. We are women, and my vice president academics in BC, Ontario, and New Brunswick, all women. So I'm very proud of the team that we've been building, and I do hear from some of our employees about being inspired, and that comes back to representation, right? If people see women in powerful roles, and if they know your heart and they see you trying, then I think that is motivating.
Thank you so much, Julia. Thank you. Right, we'll have you go, Andrea. Yes.
So one thing I believe in, first of all, and these are my negotiating skills, is like know your value, know your worth, and know your potentials. Okay? These are three powerful segments that we always have to carry with us. And let me tell you, the confidence I have, I think like I am the best human being in the world. Okay? If you do not have that, you're not going to be at the negotiating table. And when you walk into a room, you look the best and be the best and feel the best and fake it if you don't make it. Fake it until you make it, okay? So with all of that, and I'll tell you the reason why I have that and where that came from. So remember I told you about the corporation that I worked for how many years? Okay? I went for an interview and it was the area VP. And I said, whoa, this is in my segment. I've done all the retail experience, the commercial, the insurance, I'm ready. And I was interviewed by two men. And they said to me, "You have too much confidence." I was knocked off my chair. At that time, of course, I didn't know how to respond. I'm in a male-dominant environment. And they said, yes, when we go to conferences, there is 350 senior branch managers. And you basically like take over the room. And I'm thinking, this is a good thing. But to them, it was bad because I'm a woman. And so what I've decided to do, this is when I started to work on the outside, because I know that corporation no longer serves my value. And that's why I said you have to know your value. You got to know your worth, and I worth a lot of dollars. And so, you know, why am I sitting in there getting someone knocking down my confidence? But this has helped me. And you know what? We're not going to knock all the experiences we went through because it made us who we are today. Absolutely. So let's clap our past experiences, right? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So for me, I would approach it in two ways. The first one is it's important to always maintain a posture of humility. Humility is thinking less of yourself, right? Think about others, still building on that value creation. Don't make it about yourself. How are you adding value to others? How do you think less of yourself and really about others? Number two would be leverage communities. It takes a village. I watched a TED Talks from Sheryl Sandberg, the former COO of Meta, and she said, leverage your partner as a true partner. For me, for example, I'm here because my husband supports me. I'm here because my church supports me. I have friends. I'm here, I have a seat on this table because of a friend that I have, Ife, right? So it takes a village. Leverage your networks. Use that to foster those meaningful relationships. And I think just be humble. That would be my 2 cents.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. So those are different perspectives. And thank you so much, ladies. I'm going to open the floor for questions. And I see some of our community leaders in the room. I see PB there. I think PB is somewhere there. Yeah. Yes. So we're going to take some questions. CEO table, you know, people that lead a lot of women groups. You know, yeah, it's important. How do they manage and how do they navigate some of these issues? So we'll take, I think we can have about 4 and then we'll come back and wrap up from our side here. Thank you so much. Right, please introduce yourself and go on.
Okay, nice to meet you, everyone. I am Natalia Guzman. I am a founder of a company of wellness. We encourage people to develop practices and sustainable habits for being a more peaceful person, have a more present life, to empower people to actually take care of their mental health. So I am new in this country. I am starting my business here. And I see these powerful women that really inspire me. And I have a question that it's also something that you can share to all of us. First, I would love to know how you balance your family and your work. Because I think that part of your success, as you told, is that you have this balance in your life. So I would love to know which tools do you use to everyone. And if you have feel this feeling sometimes that you need to stop, you need to take a break, or if you are struggling with something, maybe it will be great also to share to all the community, because when we share our vulnerability, we empower the other people to be strong, to have tools.
Absolutely.
So I would like to
thank you.
Thank you.
What we're going to do is take a bunch of questions because it's fast and we can take a few, you know, that way we're able to answer. Yeah, we're going to take PB. She's on that table. Juliet is on that table. I see you. There's Edwina somewhere. I'm not sure if she's in the hall. Edwina is actually the executive secretary of the Ghana Canadian Chamber of Commerce from Accra, Ghana. Please let's give her a round of applause. She's from Accra, the Republic of Ghana. Yeah, I I know Edwina's president is supposed to be here, but Edwina is here. So I know that you have some perspectives also from that chamber's perspective. So if you can answer, ask some of those questions, and then if you have some contributions, this is the time to quickly put that in also. Thank you. Please go on.
Hi, my name is Bunyadi. I represent a non-for-profit foundation. I'm two in one right now today. On the side, I am, well, my 9-to-5 job, I'm a banker, full-time banker. So I wear two hats. However, I'm here today to represent a group of women that I lead under the non-for-profit foundation, of which Koyinsala is one of them as well. So I'm proud to see that she's up there. We have my first, one thing I wanted to say as we're talking about mentorship, I connected with the suggestion or the point made by Prof. Dr. Julia when she was saying that you don't necessarily have to, mentorship can be offline from afar. Dr. Olush, I don't know if I mentioned this to her, but she's my mentor because she's doing what I want to do or what I'm hoping to do for the women that I lead. So I've never said that to her, but the very first time we connected last year when I was trying to get her to attend our program, I found out that what she was doing was kind of what I wanted to do for my group, my women, and the church. So thank you for just being there and, blazing the trail in that place. 2 questions in one. Obviously, I'm a Black woman, and not as much representation as well. How would you speak to rising, like those caps? I know Andrea had spoken to some of those challenges. I think I would direct this to Koyi first. Seeing that you are there, how would you speak to overcoming those barriers as a Black woman, entrepreneur, career person, wherever we find ourselves? How have you navigated that piece? The second one is for Dr. Julia. Is there an opportunity for school, Yorkville, to organize, or do you do that already? Sessions for young women, helping them prepare to be this person that they want to be somewhere in the future, if those are things that we,
Thank you.
have the opportunity to leverage. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. One more, and then we'll now answer the questions. Yeah, thank you. I saw a hand. Okay, Edwina there. There is the CEO table. I'm not sure if they are ready yet. We'll come back to rounds of questions. Oh, okay. Oh, wow. Yeah, okay. Yeah, please go on. Go on, and then we'll go back. Yeah, we have 3. But yeah, go on, please.
Hi, everybody. My name is Nicole Bendayan. I'm Jenna's sister, actually. But I am a women's and menstrual health expert. So I teach women how to align their careers, their nutrition, and their fitness and lifestyle to their menstrual cycle and actually use it to leverage success, both personally and professionally. So that's what I do as a career. But I think there's so much value, as we were talking previously, about mentorship and people that inspire us. So I would love to know, I know each one of you are mentors to others, but also have been mentored yourself. And I think the exchange of value and information and wisdom is really important. So what would one thing that you learned from a mentor, or what is one lesson or just tidbit that you learned from a previous mentor that has helped you accelerate your careers and businesses and et cetera?
Thank you. All right, so we'll come back to you now, starting with Julia, Gina, one after the other. Yes, please. Let's take those questions because we have 4 already, and then we'll take another round, and then we'll wrap it up. Thank you.
Okay, maybe this question and then that one.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to think. I know I've been asked this before, like who was a mentor? And in truth, I never had like a formal mentor. And I guess that's why I'm very passionate about the more informal and just finding amazing people that are so smart and just try and hang out with them. But I think the thing I've learned through that kind of an approach is always bring the best of yourself. Right? Like whatever you're being asked to do or whatever you're thinking you should do, if you bring the very best of yourself, you will develop that reputation. And I loved what you said earlier, right? How you don't know where your career path is going, but looking back, you start to connect the dots. And if you can develop a reputation as someone
who brings excellence to your work, and people can count on you delivering on whatever you've committed to deliver, then I think that puts a lot of wind in your sails. In terms of your question, where is the woman who asked at the back? Yeah. Just to say, yes, thank you. And I sincerely learn from every time I attend an event like this. And I think, to me, like, to be invited here today, again, this helped me be in the moment, right? In a way that I just can't be in my day. Like, every moment is, so to be able to be here and to listen and learn from the other panelists, to be inspired by your questions. So I am thinking about what I can bring back. And I love your question, because I think there's more I could and should be doing with groups of, particularly in our BBA and project management or our other undergraduate degrees, to work with those women so they are inspired to pursue entrepreneurship. At the graduate level, 50% of our students are over the age of 36. Like, that's amazing to me, right? Women that are going back to school, transforming their lives, understanding they need that graduate degree. But because they learn online asynchronous, I don't get to see them till graduation. But then there they are, many of them with babes in arms. They remind me of when I was young, and I'm just so inspired by them. So I have to think it's a little trickier, right, when you're supporting the graduate women, but I absolutely will be taking back some ideas. Thank you for your question.
Yeah, we'll have you go, and then we'll go back and take maybe 3 more questions.
Okay,
Then we'll be done. Yeah.
I'll start off with the question about time. I find for myself, I don't have time, I make time. And so it's all about triaging and prioritization. There are going to always be externalities that come in as women. There are oftentimes a lot of people that depend on us. And so there are things outside of our control. I come from the Jewish faith, and in the Jewish faith, we have on Saturdays, we're supposed to rest and not use any electricity. And I find when I have that time to rest and recharge and not forget about sleep, it makes so much of a difference of my ability to maximize my other time. And so incorporating different things like, spending time with your family, for me, it can be stress inducing because I have this to-do list of things that are overwhelming. But finding time to write down that to-do list, prioritize triage, and then being in the moment of those times for intentional rest. And then from the perspective of I've also not really had a formal mentor. I think I've had much more kind of informal relationships where I try to give as much as I can in those relationships. I think humility is key, and kind of cutting out the ego and doing the job that no one else wants to do. Oftentimes, and I think obviously be careful about getting taken advantage of. But I've always been the one to show up and do that extra bit that no one else wants to do. And I find it's helped me tremendously in my career. And then as well, saying no, I think is critical as and just being intentional with that no.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Jenna, for that. Thank you. All right. We'll just do one more round. We'll take 3 more questions from the CEO table. I do have a group of people, the CEO VIP table. We have programs targeted specifically at them. And so I'm not sure who is asking that question. There's Juliet over there. Rook here, are you asking a question? Where's that one? You're fine? You're fine right now. Rock? Yeah. So Rock, Edwin, and Juliet, I see. Oh, wow. I'm a don't worry, we have a lot of time for networking, I'm told, over lunch, because this is all about connecting with all the people in the room. So we really do have that sit down time, and we can do a lot more then. All right, let's go in that order. Yeah. Thank you, Rock.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rukaya Gay. People call me Rock. I'm a carpenter. I do wear many hats. I'm also a serial entrepreneur. And the question I have for you is, how do you manage to be your true authentic self when you're working with people and
you're in a room full of individuals who are maybe overlooking what you do and who you are? Any of you?
All right. Connie says she'll answer.
Okay.
No, just give me a second, sir. Yeah, you'll make it faster. Can we go on to Juliet?
Answer the
No, it's okay. Juliet. Juliet, yeah.
Hello, everyone. My name is Juliet Kego Monido, and I'm the co-founder of Whole Women Network. And we do culturally relevant financial literacy, leadership, and cooperative education for women and now girls. And my question is really around that intersectional and intergenerational lens. I see that that is represented here in this room where we have different generations, and it's a great thing. And I just want to bring that down to the question around money and how I know earlier in the day, Kayla, Isabel had talked about us, leading with ambition, like asking for what we want, right? And so for me, I think what we're finding in our own experience, the work that we're doing, is that boys and men relate to finances differently from girls and women, right? So in the programs that we do, the men and the boys are quick to ask for more. And we find that with girls that are even more skilled, when we ask them to pitch to us and ask for a number, what they will be paid, they ask for maybe like 1/10, right? So the question is, how do we begin early to start that rewiring? Because it's when here in this room we're all adults, and you come and you say ask for more, and a lot of us were kind of like already formed in who we are. How do we take these conversations earlier than even university? Like to start in the programming, to start with the younger generation, so that if we're accelerating action and impact, we're doing it across generations.
Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you so much, Julia. Thank you. Are we taking one last one, or we're fine? No other one. Okay. All right. Can we go on and then answer those questions? Thank you.
The first question talked about being your true, authentic self. Okay, so I'm going to quickly give a personal story. In 2021, that was a very funny year. I burnt out, right? I took time off work deliberately for my mental health. But one of the things that I will recommend is clarity. And what does clarity mean? When I think about clarity, it's around knowing yourself better than anyone else. So that means you need to uncover some strengths as well as some opportunities. And the way I work is focus on your strengths and delegate your weaknesses. So if you can do that, trust me, knowing who you are, what you stand for, what your unique value is, you'll stand up strong and you don't really care about anyone else. Just like Andrea, I really like how she stood up to show. So know your what, and it starts with knowing your strength. It's not luck. I wanted to also say that it's not luck. You might see that there is a pattern, and that's where imposter syndrome comes in. You're continuously being successful, you have significant results, but you're attributing it to luck. It's not luck. It's because you're good at what you do, and you need to own that. My second response to the question on what we can do for young girls, I like to answer these questions using something I call 3 E's. Number 1 is exposure. You don't know what you don't know. I brought my son here. He could have stayed at home with his dad, but I wanted to expose him to see his mom on stage so that in future he can do this and not even look at anyone, right? He kept asking me, Mom, are you not scared? I said, no, I'm not scared. Just let's get it on. Number 2 is expertise. I'm someone whose foundation is you must be good at what you do. Be the most competent person at that job. Know your job to the last. There are no shortcuts here. Once you go to school, be curious, get mentors, but know your stuff better than anyone. So that's number 2. We need to ensure that girls are not superficial. They have depth, they have breadth in all they do. And number 3 is education. We need to start to infuse programs in our educational system. Thank God we have people from the parliament and all of that. How do we set ladies apart? I'm somebody now, when I ask for salaries, I ask for big salaries, and I'm not scared about it because I've done the work, I've gotten the exposure, I've done the work to know what I do, and yes, I'm fine to stand and ask for whatever I deserve. I hope that answered your question.
Thank you. Thank you. Andrea?
I got lost in your response. And so to answer Rock's question, and I know Rock has been going through her share of challenges in the trade platform. And I want us to really give Rock a shout out because she's one of the only lady that is moving other ladies forward in that platform. So, kudos to you, congratulations. But I always say, authenticity, of course, it's amazing, right? You got to be in that room. You got to show up. You got to speak to be heard, right? You got to look professional to be looked at. These are small things, but they're so crucial to your brand, to your recognition in that room. So crucial. Second, let me tell you, it is very, very important to surround yourself with like-minded people like you. And when they see you, it's like fires in their eyes, right? Because they're gonna lit your soul up so you can continue to do what you're doing to the best of your ability. But show up like you mean it. Volunteering. I didn't hear that word, or maybe if I heard that, I didn't really hear it because there's so many sharing today. Volunteer, but don't just volunteer just to be a number. Sit on the board of directors, but don't just sit on the board of directors. Lead those organizations, right? It adds value to your resume. You will be surprised as how your opportunities continues to evolve, right? And look for sponsors, man. Look for sponsors. What was the second question?
All right, thank you.
In the financial sector, that starts with every one of us here that is sitting at the table. Because if we cannot become financially independent and understand what the challenges are, we're not going to break that cycle in the next generation of girls. And I'll leave it there.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Andrea. Thank you. All right. So that, now we're done with those questions. We'll continue during the networking session. I'm now going to ask you to give us your little gems, the takeaways. I need us to, say something that she will remember tomorrow, and then she really wants to reach out to you. So let's wrap that up. We're going to wrap this up by doing that. If you have a few things to say, like in 30 seconds, 1 minute, that will be 4 minutes in total. You ready? I can go around. Koyin, I'll come back to you. Koyin.
I'm just going to say a sentence. It's not luck, it's you. That's it.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else wants to go? Yeah.
I will go next. Grit. Remember, I used that word grit. Please look it up and get into the grit atmosphere.
Oh, wow. All right. Grit. All right. Yeah.
Higher education in Canada has to fundamentally change. Watch this space. Yorkville's leading the way.
Thank you. Oh, wow. Thank you. Yes, Gina.
Talked a lot about positives, but insecurities are good too, and it makes us relatable. Don't shy away from being human with one another.
Wow. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much for those kind insights. I'm sure I speak the minds of all of us in the room when I say we've been enlightened. We've all been enlightened by these insights. Please let's give a warm applause. Yeah, we're done. We're done with this fireside chat. But then I highly recommend that you meet up with them when we go out during lunch. Get some insights more from our Women's Day. Thank you so much again for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
This was good. This was good.
Yeah. Okay, so it's time to wrap up.
I know you guys are antsy, so don't worry, I'll do my best. So we've cracked the code on funding with our first panel, learned how to work smarter with tech in our second panel, and wrapped up an incredible conversation on building strong relationships in business, talking about mentorship, talking about sponsorship, and even about higher education. If there's one thing we can all agree on, it's this: success isn't just ideas, it's also about taking action. And that brings me to my next moment. We are not just talking about action today, we are making it happen. And I am beyond excited to introduce BEST, B-E-S-T, Build, Empowered, and Skilled for Tomorrow, a groundbreaking initiative by Casa Foundation that is all about equipping young people with skills, resources, and connections they need to thrive. So this isn't just another program, it's going to be a movement. So this is a milestone that is coming up. If you want more information, please email info@Casa Foundation or talk to one of the people here today with Casa Foundation. So before we dive into lunch, I know some of you are very hungry. I want to leave you with this. When women support each other, we don't just break barriers, we build empires. We are not waiting for doors to open anymore. We are kicking them down. We are making room for more. We are not just climbing ladders, we are building skyscrapers. And when one of us rises, we bring others with us. So just like Andrea said, we're not coming to the table, we are bringing our own table. And I loved that. We're bringing our forks, we're bringing our knives, we're bringing our chairs. We are breaking the ceilings. So let's keep networking, let's keep learning, and most of all, let's keep inspiring. So enjoy lunch, keep the conversations going, and I'll see you at the networking tables. Thank you so much for attending.